What's going on YouTube? What's going on Facebook? I appreciate you guys so much for being here. The second part of the story, I've seen this go viral. This is a picture of a border security officer of some sorts with a Haitian refugee at the border. I'm going to talk about that second because I've seen a lot of stuff go around, opinions, and it's definitely very heavy on social media right now. But before I do that, I want to talk about the data out of Vermont, which was once considered one of the most vaccinated states in the country. And I follow the science, I follow the data, and the data out of Vermont is quite interesting, despite being one of the most, if not the most vaccinated state in the country. The results are not really blowing my mind, but we'll talk about it. I got I got all the stuff here. I got receipts, I got articles. You know how I do. Should be a fun day. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. That's what it is. That's the story of the day. And I just want to say, I said I was going to wear my beanie today. I did. It's beanie season, godblesshats.com. You could buy one, you could buy two. It's like a mask. You put them both on like this. Don't do this. Seriously, don't, because people are not going to like you. It's not that cool. But, they say put two masks on, you put two hats on, and don't do that. But anyway, if you do buy two hats or a hat and a shirt or two shirts or whatever, you get a free sticker. We have a 3-pack stickers, but we're giving out free stickers as well to anybody who buys two. But that's what it is, godblesshats.com. Listen, it's not a big ad. I'm just saying it is beanie season. And you could also do this if you're afraid of COVID coming from the Upper Peninsula. You just go. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Now they're gonna fact check my video, and it's gonna be like, fact check. The hat does not prevent you. I'm like, no, I swear that was a joke. I'm just trying to be funny. Please don't take away my business. But anyway, I don't know what you could even joke about anymore. Humor, comedy, etc. It's all under siege. But before we start, I don't know if I've said this on my live stream, but I've been saying it on Twitter, just speculating. In any sort of experiment or study, usually they have two groups, right? They give a medicine to one group, and then they give a placebo to another group, or they have a control group. This is pretty common. As far as these big studies where like hundreds of millions of people are getting vaccinated, are people allowed to be in a control group? I'm just curious, where it's like, they're like, we need everyone to do this or you can't get on a plane. It's like, is there a control group anywhere? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying I'm part of the control group, but say, they're like, anomaly, you can't do this. If you can't sit at a restaurant if you don't get a vaccine. It's like, could I tell them? And I'm not saying literally, but I'm just saying, if this was me, I'd be like, no, I'm part of the Pfizer, the CDC, control group. Like, would your boss care? Would your employer care? That's starting to make me think, is there even a control group at all? I'm just curious. And this is not me like telling you, I'm literally asking. I'm not being sarcastic either. If there's hundreds of millions of people getting vaccinated, I would think that they should at least match somewhat of that percentage and study these people. So I've never seen anything like what we're witnessing. And I'm just curious if any expert out there can answer this for me. Is there a control group that's allowed to survive in society? Because if not, I would say it's a very bizarre study. But to move on, let's talk about real quick the data out of Vermont. So I got right here CNN. This is from earlier. It said, I don't feel any fear going out. How residents are living in America's most vaccinated state. VTdigger.org. Vermont is the most vaccinated state in America. Are they doing enough? And I know the numbers always fluctuate, but at one time recently, Vermont was the most vaccinated state. And if they're not the number one most vaccinated state, they're very, very close, 2 or 3 at this point. But the numbers are always changing, but they're up there. So this is from the New York Times. I literally printed out. They show how vaccinated that it is, and they have a pretty good graph on there. So all ages, it says 69% of people are fully vaccinated. 12 and up, Vermont has 78% of everybody vaccinated 12 and up. 65 and up, they're at 95% fully vaccinated. So they are wildly vaccinated. That's, once again, 78% of people 12 and up are fully vaccinated. So I would assume that in the adult category, it's even higher, because in the 65 and up, it's 95%. So they're super vaccinated. Okay, that's what you got to understand. They're slurping up those vaccines. Now they're going to their nurse and doing it the right way. But anyway, this is Associated Press in August. So I have the receipts, because they're always like, we never said that. And I'm like, yeah, I get that you're learning, etc. But AP said August 17th, 2021, Vermont cases are expected to decline in the coming weeks. Vermont continues. This is AP, Associated Press, the trusted generals of the news. Vermont continues to lead the country in vaccinated rates now, with 85% of those eligible to get at least one dose, state officials said Tuesday during governor's weekly virus briefing. While the COVID number cases have increased in the recent weeks with the spread of the Delta variant, state officials anticipate seeing a decline in the coming weeks. So they were like, listen, we're like almost completely vaccinated in Vermont. Okay. We're expecting to see the numbers go down. I have a chart right here. I have a few, so I'm just going to try to find the right one because I got quite a few charts. I got the numbers of the tests, hospitalizations, and deaths, and I'm going to share it all. But this is New York Times. It's going to be backwards. I apologize on Facebook. It's backwards. But this is like, okay, that's last year. That's right now. Does that look like the cases are going down to you? Because that's literally Vermont right now. This is like the newest data out of Vermont. Now, that looks like they're hitting record highs right now. So Associated Press and Vermont's health experts and government bureaucrats who act like they're, I don't know, like super smart or something, they're like, oh, well, because everybody's listening to us, we're expecting the cases to go way down. And it's actually just not the case at all. In fact, according to the New York Times report, or their graphs rather, it says that cases as of, I think this was September 20th, which was yesterday, cases, the 14-day change, they had a 39% increase. Testing was only a 9% increase because I know when the tests go up, the cases go up. But in this case, that's not what happened. Cases are up 39%. Tests are up 9%. Hospitalizations are up 44%. And deaths are up 43%. So despite nearly their entire population being vaccinated, literally almost their entire elderly population being vaccinated, they're having a 39% increase in cases, 44% increase in hospitalizations, and a 43% increase in deaths. Those are not great numbers for September, especially, they hate the fact that I have an internet connection, so I could actually look stuff up. I'm going to try to find the graph right now because I have a few. Let me find the deaths graph because I have it right here. So I looked at the deaths in Vermont. There's not very many. It's like one, like this isn't like 1,000. This is like 1, 2. It's like 1, 2. There's not that many. I looked in September of last year. There were none. They didn't have a single death in September. And then this is right now. They're already having deaths in September. So before the vaccine was available, I could see via the chart that they went, I think, over 2 months with not a single death around this time last year, and they had no vaccine. Now their almost entire elderly population is vaccinated. 12 and up numbers are through the roof. I'm guessing the adults are even higher. And they're already outpacing. I mean, they've already beat the deaths for this month last year. Is that like a good sign? Well, no, that shows you it's working. Does it though? Because I just showed you Associated Press from August. They weren't anticipating a rise in hospitalizations, a rise in deaths, a rise in cases. That's what's happening. They're all up like 40%. That's not what they wanted. Obviously, you want the thing to actually lower that stuff. But this is September 20th. This is just off Google from Johns Hopkins. September 20th, you can see that's now. That's like last year, and then you had like the winter, whatever. Oh, so you had 130 cases yesterday in Vermont and a 7-day average of 214 cases. Let's look back to September 20th of 2020. You had five cases in Vermont, and you had a 7-day average of 4 cases. So now, with almost their entire population vaccinated, these are just the facts, folks. This is the real data. With almost their entire population vaccinated, literally almost their adult and elderly population vaccinated, they are now at a 7-day average of 214 coronavirus cases, as opposed to last September where they had an average of like 4. That's, 4 times what equals 214. That's a huge percentage increase. I'm not going to do the math right now. I probably could, but it would take me too long. It's just very interesting, folks. That's all I can really say. So that's the data. Those are the facts. You can look on New York Times, Google, Johns Hopkins, worldometers.info. There's all sorts of places where they're capturing all the data and bringing it together. And one of the most vaccinated states, formerly known as the most vaccinated state, is not outdoing their last September. And that's the same trend in Israel, by the way, where in Israel, they have around 8 million people. 3 million people now have taken the booster shot. I think 85 or 8, I don't remember the exact number, but like most of their adults have been vaccinated months ago. And they're seeing more cases and more deaths for this September and August too. And last September and August, they didn't have the vaccine and they had less. But that proves it's working. That's gotta be what they wanted. I mean, that's gotta be, really showing, well, no, the hospitals, well, yeah, for sure. So we'll revisit that. We'll see how they're doing in a few months. God bless Vermont, but I can't be bullied. Okay. I equip myself with information. What's up, Bryson? Thank you. I equip myself with information, with the data. I'm not going to be bullied into this. If this thing is just crushing it and Vermont has 0 cases, everybody's just walking around having a good time, then I'll be like, I'll consider it. I'm a smart person. I'm no dummy. But when what they say is going to happen in August in Associated Press literally doesn't happen in September. Oh, we're expecting the cases to drop and they have record highs. So what do they do to you then? Oh, you have to get it. They don't get nicer. They don't get more scientific. They just get angrier. They try to bully you. They try to mandate. Unbelievable. Good luck to everybody, because we all know the goalpost moves every time. So I hope people are enjoying themselves, staying strong, and not letting this stress you out, because that's another thing. They're adding stress. They're adding fear. A lot of people, childhood obesity's up. Overdoses are at a record high. These are like mainstream statistics now. Oh, you're really healthy. Thank you. CDC, the Center for Disease Control. How's cancer doing over the last 30 years? Have you been controlling that? How's diabetes? How's obesity? How's heart disease? Have you guys had success controlling that? Have you controlled that? The Center for Disease Control, have they really been putting us in the right direction? No, actually, life expectancy is actually going backwards. It used to, you always got better than your parents and grandparents. You're living longer. That's no longer the case, because kids are overdosing on opioids and killing themselves, which is driving our life expectancy backwards, among other things. Let's visit the more controversial. Somehow this is the more controversial story. I saw this picture and other pictures go viral, and I'm going to weigh in on in a second, and we should probably talk about it. But before, I have a question, and I've read some answers. Please feel free to educate me. How are Haitian refugees getting to the border of Mexico and America? Because Haiti's pretty far away. Are they taking boats there? A lot of people said that they went to South America as refugees after the hurricane, and they're making their way up. Is somebody busing them in or flying them in? Is it some sort of activist group? I'm genuinely curious, not being sarcastic, because it's pretty crazy. And I want to say this before I even get into this story. Listen, I get both sides of the fence. I've worked on a farm. I've worked with illegals. And I'm not saying that's the only place that they work. I'm just saying in general, as a human being, I don't hate anybody because their struggle, their hustle. If you're a human and you're born in Mexico or you're born in Haiti, you got to do what you got to do. As a human, I don't hate on that. As an American citizen and someone with a brain, I think to myself, if our border's this easy to get into, whether Trump's in there, Biden's in there, Obama's in there, if our border's this open and this easy to get into, which if you follow Bill Malugin on Twitter or anywhere, Bill Malugin, fantastic. One of the best journalists in the country. He worked at local Fox in LA, and then he got a national gig. He's down at the border. Check out Bill Malugin. He's talking about record highs, tens of thousands of people. The pictures are unbelievable. And I'm thinking to myself, if it's this easy to get in, any of our enemies, and this is not some conspiracy, this is just obvious. Like, we're not in great standing with everyone in the world. China, Russia, and I'm not saying they hate us, but they're no dummies over there. And we're open season. Any country that doesn't like us anywhere in the world can exploit our southern border, because it's literally that easy. Whether they do it this way or that way or this way, we can't be this open. We can't be this obvious. Ask somebody from Syria. I had a great interview with someone from Syria. What happened? How did ISIS come in your country, et cetera? He was like, well, one of the things was open borders. You have to secure the borders. You have to know who's coming into your country. When I fly into Canada, they don't just say, hey, anomaly, just walk wherever you want, do what you got. No, I got to go through customs. They got to know who I am. They're scanning everyone all the time. You got to show an ID just to get on a plane, or else you can't get on the plane. I don't hate Canada. They're not racist towards me, and neither is any country. It's just like, that's what you do because you want to know who's coming into your country. If you're just allowing hundreds of thousands of people to pour across the border, we're going to get conquered. We are going to get bamboozled by anybody, everybody. So it's deeper than just this, that, Trump, this, it hurts my feelings, black, white, because there's going to be all sorts of racial and political angles. Be smart, folks. But here's the thing, before I move on, and I got some other stuff to say as well, but right now in this country, the liberal side of the argument, they're not liberals of like 20 years ago. They're like self-deprecating people. They don't like themselves. They hate their skin color. They feel guilty. They feel oppressed. They hate this. They don't like the country. Like, I get being critical of America. I'm very critical of America, but like, I don't hate it. I'm very grateful also, but also we could change a few things. They straight up don't care. That's why they feel they hate their country so much. They're like, whatever. This is not the JFK or even the Clinton, the Bill Clinton. This isn't even the Obama. Obama had more deportations than people think. Like, no president ever thought this way. Chuck Schumer used to talk about it. They're all actors and phonies. They all used to say, we need to secure our borders. Duh. Because if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. You don't have rules. It's like anarcho-communism where it's like no rules for you, but for the people here, you got to, get an injection and lock down 5 months. It's psychotic. So they brainwash people to the point where they've been so filled with all these social justice stuff. Thank you, Julius, that they don't even realize that it's so bad nationally to have a wide open border to the point where people from all over the world can just go there. Foreign armies could go there, or they could send people undercover. I mean, you can't send someone undercover to go on. I mean, I guess you could, but in general, it's harder on a plane. You got an ID. We have multiple agencies that are monitoring that stuff. You send them across the border, 100,000 people, excuse me, you don't even know who they are. So we have to secure the border. I know Trump maybe gave it a bad brand for certain people on the left wing, but got to get over it. Anyway, so this picture, surface because it's just, I guess, bad imagery. Similar, not exactly the same thing because no one died, I don't believe, but it gives me like a George Floyd vibe, and I'm not saying it's the same, but it's like white cop, black person, got the right frame, and people are losing their minds. You got a lot of black activists. When I say that, I'm not trying to generalize because there's millions of black people who agree with me. There's millions, but I'm just saying a lot of pages that I follow, like, oh my God, the white man's doing it again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so easy to push this narrative on people. You just get one. And this is Reuters, by the way. Once again, Reuters is saying White House condemns border guard using a whip-like cord against Haitian migrants. So it was a rain, by the way, but they're calling it a whip-like cord. It's kind of like Jussie Smollett. It's like we found a noose, and it's like they zoom in on it so it looks huge. Then you zoom out, and it's like this big. It couldn't even fit around somebody's wrist. It's like these people, they love the good black, white, just scare the crap out of people, use their fear for their agenda. It's disgusting. Anyway, I just want to read this from Mike Glenn real quick. He said, horse lesson for novices on Twitter. He said the horse-mounted Border Patrol guys down in Del Rio are riding Western style, so they're using what's known as a split rein to control the horse. It's where the reins are attached to the bit but aren't attached to each other. The reins are held in the rider's hands. They are usually long enough to perhaps appear whip-like, and occasionally a rider will use it to spur the mount a bit, but the reins are not whips. Border Patrol does not carry whips. Everyone's going with that story, and I think that's pretty much what's happening is that it's the reins of the horses. How they use that, I saw certain pictures. The context is, you obviously never know, but with that, it looks really bad. Did he use it as like a way to stop them, or was it just like kind of like caught out of context where, people are just like, oh my God, I'm not really sure. But in general, I think it's a difficult job. Obviously, when the race is involved, people will say, well, I like that race. That race is a prep. But as a border officer, I would say most of them at this point are like Hispanic. They're not even white. There's a lot of Hispanic border patrol, but it's a difficult job. I mean, you're dealing with not all the time. Of course, there's some nice people and families, but there's human smugglers, traffickers. It's like these people who tell people that are police officers, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do this. And it's like, I hear you, Colin Kaepernick, because I get that there are corrupt police, just like there are corrupt border security. But do you want to go do it? Because it's not very easy. I've seen dozens of videos on Twitter where a police is hesitating and someone reaches out of their car and just blows his head off. And people die all the time at the border. People get raped. Little girls are getting raped. Huffington Post put out an article that 80% of girls and young women from South America or Central America trafficked across the border are being raped, 80%. So it's not a gay club in West Hollywood where you all just hang out and chill. It's like that's what they try to paint it as. It's like, oh man, people just want to come to America. They got hundreds of thousands of people going across the border, hundreds of thousands. We have 300. Do the math. You do this for 10, 20 years, your country could be completely conquered. And I get why people would be upset and spin a narrative out of this. Like, oh my God, they're not doing it to the Hispanics. They're only doing it to these people. But a year ago, they were trying to say that there's concentration camps at the border because they were detaining people who were coming over illegally. I get detained at the airport if I don't, I've been detained by Department of Homeland Security or one of them. When I came off a cruise one time, they pulled me in a back room and went through all my shit. I didn't enjoy it. I was not pumped about it, but it's like, I'm like, okay, they let me go. It was fine. I didn't do anything. They just, I guess, pick random people sometimes. But I mean, people are going to make a huge situation out of this. They're going to lie about it, take it out of context, call it courts. You try to go on horseback and deal with like 6 people breaking into the country. But the crazy part to that narrative to me is I saw multiple conservatives and Republicans that believe in border security, that understand it's necessary, that think that our country's getting invaded, and they fell for the propaganda too. And they said, oh my God, this is Joe Biden's administration. Look what Joe Biden's doing. Oh my God, Joe Biden is whipping black people. It's like, that's what the Republican Party does. It's like anytime it's convenient to play the race card for their favor. I get it. I guess you want people to vote for you or something, but it's like that border agent, he probably worked during Trump's administration too. It's not like Biden handpicked that guy and put him in. I would not want to be those people. Right now, if you look at pictures, they already have their hands tied. They have 100,000 people coming across the border. They have activist groups and all sorts of lawyers trying to fight on their behalf. And like Tucker Carlson said and get called a racist for, if you listen to the Democratic Party, don't listen to me or Tucker, listen to the Democratic Party speak like Julian Castro. They're explaining how they're going to win elections. They don't want to win elections by convincing the people who live in America. They want demographic change. It's not a far right conspiracy theory like they say. Listen to them speak. They say, hey, Texas is going to go blue soon. Excuse me. They're like, because we're changing the ethnic background of this. And I just find it very interesting with all the refugees. They're like, oh, no, come here. It's like, go to Idaho, go here, go to Texas, go here. It's like, okay, I'm all for helping people. But at a certain point, I have to get mandated to eat at a restaurant. And if I were coming across the border illegally from Mexico, from South America, from Haiti, I wouldn't be mandated. That's what Jen Psaki said. People who come over the border illegally, they don't have a vaccine mandate. So we're living in a country, they're using race and they're exploiting race. But really what they're doing, whether you're black, and by the way, I know a lot of people are going to see that picture and think, oh my God, they're oppressing us. In no way, shape, or form does illegal immigration help black communities. If anything, in America, it disenfranchises black people. You've been here for a long time. As far as the past and et cetera, how does letting hundreds of thousands of people, by the way, most of them are Hispanic. It's not like that many Haitians, but in general, how is that going to help black people in America? It's just them using these divisive tactics to end up screwing you over. It's the same reason where in New York, 70+% of black youth at the time that I read a couple weeks ago, they don't get vaccinated. It's the Republican Party. It's the Giuliani. I think he's running for mayor, the younger one. He doesn't want to mandate vaccines. He's not going to get the black vote. So it's like they don't want to get vaccinated, but then statistically, I'm not talking about everybody, they then vote 80-90% for the Democratic Party, who's the one who's trying to get them. That's neither party is great, but I'm just saying it's like there's a disconnect here where people are constantly getting tricked into sabotaging their own interests, even racially, when that's like the number one thing that they talk about doing. So it's a very deceitful tactic, and we're being, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, and you're an American citizen, which is probably most of the people in America watching this. And if we have any illegals, we love you too. But in general, isn't it crazy that you can't run your business? Isn't it crazy that you're being forced vaccinated? Isn't it crazy that you're being treated like an animal? But if somebody comes over the border illegally without identification, that they literally get more laws in their favor in your own country? There's something profoundly wrong with that. It's like, if you're the governor of California, it's great if you love New Jersey. It's great if you love Mexico, but you're the governor of California. You're not the governor of the world. You're not the leader. do your job. There's way too much homelessness in California, and they're talking about Donald Trump all the time. Well, that's cool. It's interesting to hear your opinion about Donald Trump, but what are you doing? Because California has one of the biggest economies in the entire world. If you put the California economy up against world economies, it's top 10 last time I checked. And in America, last time I checked, California's #1 in poverty. And they're also the homelessness out of control, filth, crime is up. But that's how they distract people. They talk about Trump and they talk about this. Talk about California. It's the same with America. I got no problem with Mexico. God bless Haiti, and God bless the people who had to put up with what wicked people from America, like the family that must not be named, what they did to Haiti. It's disgraceful. But it's kind of crazy that the people who govern our country literally don't care about us. The people that are supposed to protect everybody in America, they seem to, from left wing to right wing. On the left, I think they prioritize you last. Like, they hate you. On the left, they literally hate you. They're like, we will literally treat anybody better than you, and we will treat you like trash. We will raise your taxes. We'll do this. We'll shut down your business, and we'll let people coming across a river illegally, we'll let them not have a vaccine mandate. How does that make any sense? And then on the right wing, I have a shocker for people who watch this. The right wing does not prioritize, or the Republican Party rather, they do not prioritize Americans first either. And I'm going to give you another example of that today. I'm going to read a tweet from Gab, the social media that's been banned off everything. Whoever runs the Twitter, I think it's Andrew Torba, is excellent. It's one of my favorite Twitter feeds. He crushes it. But he said, our country is literally being invaded as we speak. 100 million people are being forced to inject themselves with a substance that goes against their faith. And the GOP is whining on Twitter that Democrats don't want to send $1 billion of our money to a foreign country. If you go to Kevin McCarthy's Twitter, actually, why don't I just go to his Twitter right now instead of just pretending so I can read it aloud? Let's see what Kevin McCarthy's talking about, one of the leaders of the Republican Party. He must be furious about all this stuff, right? He must be really standing up for people with the forced vaccinate. Oh no, he's tweeting about Israel. Oh my gosh. There's like 3-4 tweets about his whole timeline's Israel. Let's read it. He says, breaking, Democrats just pulled the funding from the Iron Dome, the missile defense system that has saved countless lives from Israel and Hamas's rockets. While Democrats capitulate to the anti-Semitic influence of the radical members, Republicans will always stand with Israel. And he's retweeting all these Republicans. They're like, oh my God, give our money to Israel. And there's reports now that say that Israel's thinking about taking away one of their embassies in America or bringing the person home because we're not giving them money. Listen, I love Israelis. I love Israel. But how good of an ally are they if they only like us when we're giving them taxpayer money? I think it's preposterous that we send money to Pakistan, Israel. We're sending money all over the place. I'm paying 30-40% taxes, whatever, however much I have to pay. After write-offs, it's less. But in general, to fund another country. Does Israel have no money of their own? They only like us if we give them money. And when we stop giving them money, the GOP freaks out. I haven't seen Kevin McCarthy on the front lines for mandates. I haven't even seen Donald Trump. He's running around the country trying to sell the mRNA vaccine as a great lifesaver, and they seem profoundly silent. And I've told people this for a while, because if you like another country, it's fine. But if you prioritize another country over America, it's not fine. And that's who the Republican Party is. I know people don't want to hear this, but when you think you're fighting socialism and the country shuts down and Trump's like, well, we got a 15 days and then it's 30 days and they're printing trillions of dollars and now they're selling vaccines, does something seem a little off? I know people don't want to say it because we're fighting Joe Biden. That's what everyone says. No, anomaly, we're fighting Joe Biden. You're not fighting anything. They're serving their donors and interests in the same way that the left wing does. And Big Pharma lobbies both sides, and that's why both sides sell Big Pharma products. You think they want to walk around the country and say, I did it. I'm the big guy. I'll get your jab. Like they weren't doing that a while ago. No, look how much Big Pharma gives to both parties. And also they're going to say, somebody's going to say, I don't really care, but many people say, well, it's anti-Semitic to suggest that people would do anything. If you look at the biggest donor in the Republican Party, this is just facts. Look up Sheldon Adelson, who recently passed away. God bless his soul. But Sheldon Adelson gives hundreds of millions of dollars to the Republican Party. And if you don't think that influences their opinion, just look at President Trump's tweet about Sheldon Adelson before he got into office and took Sheldon Adelson's money. He said to Marco Rubio, I'm not going to quote because I don't remember the exact thing, but he said, Marco Rubio, Sheldon Adelson's giving you money because he can make you into his perfect little puppet. That's what Donald Trump said. He said, Rubio, you're going to take Sheldon Adelson's donor money and he's going to mold you into his perfect little puppet. And you know what Trump did? He got into office. He took Sheldon Adelson's money and then he gave his wife a Presidential Medal of Freedom or Presidential Medal of Honor, just like a normal politician. Take the money, do exactly what you said the other person would do. You turn into his perfect little puppet. But Trump is such a likable guy that nobody wants to talk about. But anomaly, Trump's so rich, he doesn't need to take anyone's money. Well, he doesn't need to, but he did take it. And then all of a sudden they prioritize a foreign country over America. Well, that's because anomaly, we have to love it. Do you want your country to implode or something? Because then you could maybe, float on a boat somewhere and hold on to your Bible or something. But if you care about America, unless you just want to give up and say, well, screw it, both parties are destroying us and just, float away. If you care about your country, you should understand why your party is not serving your interests. They're serving the interest of billionaires who decide to leverage other countries over yours and then call you an anti-Semite if you point out where the money's coming from. They don't have special interests. Yeah, they only have thousands of special interest groups that specifically state exactly what they're doing. And then if you say that they're doing it, they'll call you a name. It's like in America racially. Everybody's got all these race groups. This is, when you post that picture of the refugee thing, you're going to have millions or thousands of black influencers say, we care about black people. This is what we want to do. The white man's oppressing us. That ethnicity that I just spoke of, there's thousands of groups for that. But what about you? Are you allowed to? No, you just have to just sit there. And Jimmy Fallon laughs when he says, the white population's dying. And then everybody laughs hysterically. Like they're like, I guess it's funny that, your kids are dying of opioids or whatever. And like life expectancy is going. It's not funny. It's not funny for any ethnicity or any race. But it doesn't make it okay just because the media brainwash, a certain group of people to not care at all about this stuff while other groups are running circles around them, lobbying politicians, and you can't even talk about it. So, that's the Republican Party. They'll pretend to be your friend for three years. They'll lock the country down the fourth year. They'll say socialism will never reach America. Then they'll implement full-blown socialism, and then they'll say they're fighting socialism, and then people will believe them. And then they'll always prioritize another country over yours, and that country will pretend to be your greatest ally until you stop funneling taxpayer money to them, and then they'll threaten to leave you. That's what they're doing. And that's what Kevin McCarthy is worried about. I haven't seen the GOP do jack shit to fight the vaccine mandates. I mean, some of the governors have done some stuff and some of the congressmen, but overall, these leaders that you guys donate to, they're more concerned about other stuff. They have bigger fish to fry. And it's not like random. People think it's so random. It's like, why are so many politicians? There was a Washington Post article. It said, Washington Post. It was I can't remember the exact headline, but it said like natural immunity is powerful. Why are politicians afraid to say so? It's not a mystery. Politicians are like professional prostitutes. I'm not saying like literally sexually, but they're all sucking up money and they're all like phonies. That's why people did like Trump, because he was the least phony person. But in general, it's not a mystery why they're sucking up to big pharma and they don't want to talk about him. They're all taking money, or a lot of them are. And this stuff is like open source, opensecrets.org. You can see how much money they're taking. Big Pharma is one of the biggest lobbyists. And it's the same thing with the GOP. You can act like it's such a hateful thing to say, but if you have a billionaire who explains on camera, I like this country better than this country. I served in the American army, but if I could play it back, I would go serve in the Israel army. He has a preference, and it's not America. He likes America, but not as much as another country. So if he's funneling $100 million to your political party, that's the reason they're prioritizing them over you. Just like at the border, they could say they love Hispanics and Latinos. We got a lot of them here. They're not all being taken care of in America. So why are they so interested in refugees and all these programs if we can't even clean up the homelessness off the street in LA? They don't give a crap about Haitians. Clearly, if the Democratic Party can convince you that they care about Haitians, that's the ultimate psyop, because the Democratic Party and Haitians go together like oil and vinegar. But in general, it's like they want a certain agenda. And if they can use certain groups and certain people to achieve certain goals, they will do that. And as somebody who likes people for who they are, in my day-to-day life, I don't care about race. But as far as being a news analyst and reading and researching a lot of stuff, you think the Democratic Party doesn't know which religion votes against them? You think the Democratic Party doesn't know which race votes against them? You think the Democratic Party doesn't know which gender votes the most against them? If you look at those three things I told you, and you looked on a map, the biggest religion that votes Republican, Christian. The biggest race that votes Republican, white. The biggest gender that votes Republican, male. And what does the media hate the most nowadays? Christian white males. I'm not saying I'm oppressed. Oh my God, no, my life is great. And I'm not going to let these losers, I don't care what they think of me. But in general, it's not like they're turning everyone, oh man, we're fighting whites. You're not fighting anything. They're fighting the racial demographic and the gender demographic and the religious demographic that votes and puts a wedge between a total government control over this country and freedom. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Constitution. Do a poll. I don't need to do a poll. Who do you think likes the Constitution more? The liberals or the conservatives? It's conservatives. They like gun, they like God, and they like the country. That's a threat to the establishment that's trying to take over the country. So they're going to make all these movies and do all these things to make people think they're fighting the people at the top of the pyramid, but they're not. It's the same with taxing people over $400,000 a year. Listen, if you make a lot of money, it's nice to share. But here's the thing. They brainwash people to think that the government is more virtuous with your money than you are. I'll give you an example. I tip very well. When someone's nice, I now that I actually have money, I'm not super rich, but I'm doing pretty well. I hand out money. I give people $20 tips off of a $5 drink. They're like, you sure you want that? I say, yeah, if you're a good person, I like to spread the love. You know, if someone helps me do something, I'm giving them a 200% tip and they're looking at me. I'm like, I'm good. You take that. You know, I like you. I appreciate your work. When the government takes my money, I can do that less because they're stealing my money. What do they do with my money? Do they do what they say they're doing and help the poor? No, they go and drop bombs on poor countries and they take over poor countries and they kill innocent civilians. That's what Joe Biden's administration did. They just bombed somewhere and killed 7 children with my taxpayer money and your taxpayer money. They're not more virtuous than you. They just brainwash people into thinking they're the ones helping the poor. If you're a good person, which most people are, you'll help the poor more than the government will with your money. Oh, but people are so selfish. The government's worse than they are the people, but it's like the government's worse. They don't need your money. But these are the games that they play. Oh, we're fighting the wealthy by taxing people over 400,000%. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, George Soros. I mean, name whoever you want. I know people don't want to hear certain people. Warren Buffett, whatever. Go to the top 100, 200 richest people. You think a tax is going to bother them? They got more money than God. They could give up 99% of their money and still just travel around the country forever and never run out of money buying anything that they wanted. Those taxes don't hurt those people. If you're taxing people over $400,000 a year, you're hurting small businesses, people that are trying to compete with those people, okay? People that are trying to compete with Warren Buffett and compete with Jeff Bezos. That's who you're wiping out. And people don't realize, oh, we're taxing the rich. If you're taxing the rich, then just tax the billionaires. You don't need to tax people who make over $400,000, but they're wiping out their competition. And with all these mandates, you hear all these businesses, I'm losing service. I'm not saying you deserve to, but it's time to grow some balls and do something. Well, I don't want my business to close down. I get it. Then I guess just crumble and die then. I don't know what to tell you. If you're not willing to stand up and do something brave, your business is going to crumble and die because that's what they're trying to do. Kill your business, kill the competition. And when the big corporations and the government controls everything, they could turn on and off everything. What bothers them? The Constitution, the freedom of speech, the Second Amendment, the free market that once existed before the lockdown. And here's the most frustrating thing is you're going to have Republican media brainwashing conservatives into thinking that this is like a Joe Biden thing. Never forget that this didn't happen in November and this didn't happen on January 20th. The world changed forever and has never gone back from March 2020 with a Republican president and a Republican Senate. When push came to shove, they sold you out and marched around the country and sold vaccines for Pfizer and Moderna. Why? Ask them. This didn't start with Joe Biden. The Republicans sold you down the river, and now they're trying to convince you, if you put us back into office, we'll stop. You ushered it in, dummies, liars. I'll still vote for your dumbass, excuse my language, but because you are the better option. Yeah, it's better than Joe Biden, but I'm not impressed. And then I say something. People are like, it's either Trump or Biden. That's how you become a fool. Just run in circles, going back and forth like a ping pong ball. I'll still vote for their dumbasses, but they're going to hear my voice every day. Trump sold out, or at least got fooled into communism, got fooled into socialism. And now they're going to spend 4 years fundraising off of Republicans who think that they weren't the ones who brought this here. And the only way to stop it is like a strong no. There is no strong no. The Republicans go to all their Twitters. They're going to run circles around Israel for 2 weeks because that's where their big donor money comes from. Oh, that's so racist to say. It's not racist. It's factual. That's where their money comes from. So they're going to run circles around. Oh my God, we're the least anti-Semitic people. I'm sure you are. Oh, you're so nice. Yeah, Ilhan Omar's so bad. I get it. There's good and bad people in the world, but have they ever addressed like any of these issues strongly? And like, now Thomas Massey's done it. Rand Paul's done it. Marjorie Taylor Greene's kind of done it. The rest of them just flop in the wind. And they say you're not allowed to talk about it. But it is what it is. I talk about what I want to talk about. And it's going to take a little bit of that. And people have to be strong and brave in their own life because there is no, well, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines for 4 years and vote for this person. They might roll back a mandate. They might help you. Like I said, I still vote Republican. I just don't sit on my ass and say, oh my God, I know they're not going to save me. If anything, they're going to throw me a bone and save me 3% in taxes or something. But it's not like they're going to blow my mind. No, they'll probably lock down again if they had to and sell another pharmacy product. And then be like, oh, who would have known that the Democrats were going to do this? It's like, yeah, I mean, it was only like blatantly obvious for a year. And be prepared. I'm not going to say scared because have no fear, but be prepared for the formerly known as flu season. And I say formerly known because I guess we don't have a flu season anymore. But for my entire lifetime and for the last 40, 50, 60 years or so, I don't know how long it's gone back. I haven't fully traced the flu. But in my lifetime, I could for sure speak of every winter, you have the flu season. The flu season. If you look at a lot of these COVID charts, you have a little curve around the winter because during the winter, maybe it's because of sunlight, maybe it's because of weather and cold. I'm no expert, but the winter seems to be when a lot of people get, more respiratory illnesses and et cetera. So this flu season, you're going to have, or the formerly known as flu season, COVID season, you're probably going to have cases and hospitalizations spike. And they're going to try to use it to lock us down again. Almost definitely. They're going to look at those numbers and they're going to try to lock us down. And here's the thing. I've been trying to get ahead of the narrative for over a year, explaining how they're counting the cases, how they're counting the deaths, how the vaccination rates are going, how the data out of countries that are mostly vaccinated are going. And the GOP, what have they been doing all year? Selling the product that they're using to mandate against you. Selling. It's a big sale for them. Pfizer, half off of $0. It's free. They're making tens of billions of dollars, but it's free. You only had to lock down for 4 months and, print $10 trillion to get it. It's free. Yeah, it's about as free as AOC and Andrew Yang's policy because it is Andrew Yang's policy. The Republican Party became AOC. No, that's Joe Biden. No, that's the Republican Party. They said universal basic income. Republicans said that's not free. Donald Trump said, let's lock down and print trillions of dollars. Republicans said, man, that's a good deal. He's saving the country. It's like WWE, except way less entertaining now, especially with sleepy ice cream Joe just pooping his pants. It's way less entertaining, but I want to see what happens this November. And I'm curious to see. I think Republicans are over it mostly. And when I talk about the party, I'm not talking about the voters. I'm a voter. Unfortunately, there's not a better party, but it's like November, December hit. They're going to be like, oh my God, what about the obesity numbers? Now, childhood obesity is up like 10 or so percent. I think it was like 30 something percent to 40 something. Do you think when 10% of children get fatter and say the obesity's up and all this stuff's up, drug overdoses, is that not going to increase hospitalizations? These people don't think. They're like, oh my God, the cases are up. So now we got to do this. It's so obvious. It's just so obvious now. And it just sucks that we have one party that is gung-ho on restricting our freedom in life. And then we have another party who is like controlled op, like we're just there to, pretend to be, and I'm not saying they're literally controlled op, but I mean, if you look up what controlled opposition means, it means like having one team that's supposed to be on your side that's not. They pretty much are that at this point. They're like, man, we're really going to fight socialism. We just got to do it first. I mean, the only way to fight it's like be worse than AOC and then just blame Joe Biden and fundraise off the border crisis. Like, yeah, how about you guys come out right now and say, hey, we're expecting a spike in November and December because respiratory illnesses tend to get worse in the winter, but we will not fearmonger over it. And why aren't they on television talking about the Vermont data? DeSantis does a pretty good job as far as rhetoric and narrative. DeSantis is good. The rest of them are goofballs. I mean, there's a few winners in there. Let me know what you guys think. I'm done ranting, but it's just like it's like watching this happen in slow motion. I'm like, I can't wait till the formerly known as flu season happens, and then they're gonna act like, oh my God, well, all this up. What about all of the other, collateral damage that you guys did from the lockdowns, all the anxiety that you built in people, all the extra weight people are carrying around? Is that going to increase hospitalizations combined with the formerly known as flu season? Could that be it? Or are you just going to keep injecting people like Israel, which is disgusting that they're doing that, in my opinion. It's like when the numbers aren't good, it's time for a new shot. Oh man, that's like an insanity hamster wheel. It's like, man, we told you it was going to go away, but it didn't. So now you have to get the product again and again and again and again. Hey, your car broke down. You need another car. Oh, you need another brand. Imagine if any other company did this. It's like if what they said didn't happen, they force you to get another one and you're not even allowed to opt out. And before I read comments, can't somebody in the Republican Party do this? And if they don't do this, why clap for them? Why, if they can't even do half of what I'm doing, which is not that hard to do. I mean, I research and stuff, but their whole job is to represent people. They have employees. I do all my research. I printed all this stuff out on an HP, printer I bought. These people have a whole staff. They have people who read shit for them. Excuse my language. They can't do. They're not doing it because they don't care. They're politicians. Someone said Project Veritas. Project Veritas does something. Project Veritas does more than the GOP. It's not even close. They do this much. And he does it all on like donations and stuff. God bless that guy. Someone says, so basically Vermont is the most vaxxed and they're having a plus 40% in deaths. Well, I'm just going to read real quick, just to repeat, because this is earlier in the stream, but I got the data. And if you want to look, just look up New York Times, deaths, hospitalizations, they got it all. Straight off New York Times, I'm going to read it again. Vermont well, let me get the vaccinations because it's just very interesting. Let's see. Let me find where are we? Hold on one second. Okay. So I got the vaccination rate. 12 and up, they're 78% fully vaccinated. That's 12 and up. So I would assume 19 and up is even higher. That's crazy. 12 and up, even 12-year-olds and up, 78% fully vaccinated. 12 and up, 87% has at least one dose. 65 and up, almost the entire adult population has it. And fully vaccinated, 95%, 65 or up. They're having a 39% spike in cases, a 44% spike in hospitalizations, and a 43% spike in deaths. This is what Republicans should be doing. I mean, I don't care that they're not, but it's like they're on Twitter crying because Israel has to buy their own stuff. Do they have no money as a nation? I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like we printed $10 trillion. Like we don't even have money. We're in debt and we're just printing money and destroying our currency and just bankrupting hundreds of thousands of restaurants. God forbid Israel has to buy their own crap one time. We give them billions of dollars every year of taxpayer money. We're just funneling them free money all the time. If we stop the gravy train, all of a sudden they hate us. What a great friend. It's like a friend that you're just doling out money to. And you're like, hey, it's time for you to like buy something of your own. Like, oh, we don't want to hang out anymore. That's what they're doing to us now. They have no money. Can they print money like what we're doing? Our currency is going to get destroyed, but I'm sure theirs is not because they're not idiots like we are, just printing money. We're in trillions of dollars of debt. We're like, let's just make new ones. And then we're like, hey, we're going to cut your budget by like a couple million or a billion. Oh, well, we're not friends anymore. Well, maybe you weren't that great of a friend to begin with. I'm sorry. And I'm talking about the government and the politicians. I'm not talking about the people. Okay. I like people from Israel. I like people from China. I have nothing against Chinese people, but it's like I live in America and our governments are competing, I guess. So it's just what's happening. But our government is much dumber than theirs. I don't know. You look at Xi Jinping, he at least looks like a strong guy. Joe Biden, what a joke. Sylvia, thank you. Someone said, do we believe those numbers? I mean, you could believe what you want. I don't know. I guess you could fully research where New York Times is getting those numbers, but I would say they keep a pretty good report of them. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think all statistics deserve to be questioned. The reason I do this stuff is I hold up their numbers to them, right? I didn't make this up. So it's like these are the numbers they're giving me. That's why I use this. Can you question them? Can you ask questions? Where did these numbers come from? How accurate? Of course. But this is their data, right? We are the experts at New York Times. We will tell you the data. Well, I'm not impressed. I'm looking at the charts, and if the most vaccinated state is having 40% increases for cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, I'm not impressed. And I read earlier, but AP and the Vermont health experts, they had a press conference, and they said that wasn't going to happen. They're like, we expect cases to go down. You expect cases to go down because your whole narrative's a lie. You think this is like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and you just got the golden ticket. I'm going to be fine. I'll never get it. I'll never get sick again. I got it. And I lost 1,000 pounds. I look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, you don't. You got a pharmacy product. You're not better than everybody. You're not a vaccine supremacist. They think they're so great. They're like, I got it and everything's just going to go away. Well, that's not what the data says. That's not what reality says. You said that was going to happen. Everybody listened to you. And now that's not quite happening. So it's time to move on. It's time to be like, you did it and hopefully it protected you. And if it didn't, then and vice versa. If you didn't get it and you got the thing and you wish you would have got it, hindsight is 2020, regardless which side of the fence you're on. But these people think they're so special. Like, where cases are going to disappear because everyone got our product. That's not. And then the reports are coming out about Chantix, Chantix was one of Pfizer's smoking, like get off of cigarettes sort of thing. And I believe it got recalled, just recently, a month or two ago, but there's new reports out about it. It's like these companies, their history is like laughable. J&J, Pfizer, if you look at their court settlements, Justice Department, baby powder, Chantix, sunscreen, it's not like they're flawless. It's not like they're Michael Jordan on the best night of his life, shooting like 20 of 20. It's like they never miss, you conspiracy theory. No, it's called, there is no conspiracy theory. It's not like I hate them. I'm not mad. Like, oh my God, you've never done anything good. Well, that's not true. And then it's also not true that they've never made any mistakes. It's like the media brainwashed people into thinking this was a conservative issue. 3 years ago, everybody knew this. This was not, I grew up and I was never Republican or conservative. And I always knew this when I was like 19 years old. This isn't a Republican issue. They just brainwash people by hating Trump or something. And now all of a sudden the liberals are like, you can't be a conspiracy kid. And it's like, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's called accurately knowing the history of the companies that are trying to mandate their product in your arm. That's all it is. It's like, so there is no theory. These people are not batting 1,000. It's not even close. So, or 100, whatever. 1,000. It's ridiculous. Kathy said, thank you for the Vermont data. Nurses have come out and said the majority of hospitalizations related to blank are severe Listen, I don't know that for sure, Kathy, but I'll look into it. I don't want to, and I'm not trying to censor you or anyone else. I don't want to say anything that I can't prove. That's kind of my strategy to, one, not be a liar, and also not get censored. But more importantly, it's not even like I'm so scared to say something. I'm not. It's just, a lot of people say I'm a truther. I hate the fake news. And then they spread fake news. So I try to be very careful with what I say. And some things come out wrong, like even about border and Israel. Like these are two very hard things to talk about. You have a border thing and you have someone who's Haitian. Like even talking about it makes you seem racist, even if you don't say anything, right? And then vice versa, if you talk about Israel, if you're conservative and you don't just get on your knees and say, God, I'm not going to pay attention, people will call you an anti-Semite. So these are difficult things to talk about anyway. I'm not afraid. I just try to word it properly and have my resources, but I don't hate anybody. Just like Haitians, I feel their pain, but it's like, I'm trying to figure out how they got to the Mexican border. Personally, I don't think they got there naturally. I think there's probably some group or some organization that's bringing them there. And I don't know though. I would like to look into it. Someone said this world's a mess. Yeah, but it's a fun mess. It's like going to a party with 6 billion people. You got to make the most of it. Someone said NGOs. Yeah, probably. Someone said they're already censoring everyone. For sure. Yeah, I want to say this real quick. I got a TikTok. I'm not like a TikTok star or anything, but I posted my salad vaccine video where it's like a minute long. I just said they're trying to put vaccines in the salad. I got like 300,000 views on TikTok. My video on TikTok got more views than it did on Facebook or Instagram. And I don't even have a following on TikTok. The algorithm of TikTok just slaps. So now I almost have 10,000 followers on TikTok. I got 400,000 views. I was like, I'm going to start doing some dances on TikTok, saying cook it up or something. I don't know. I'm not trying to be trendy, but I'm glad that I got that information out to people on TikTok. Someone said live Rebel News. I like Rebel News out of Canada. They're good. They're good people. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jody. Thank you guys for the stars and stuff. I appreciate it. Here, I'll try to read some star comments. Let me see if they'll pop up. Thank you, guys. Don said, you're an Alaskan at heart. I do love Alaska. It seems like a good place to escape to. It's still in America. Lena, thank you so much. Jody, Eve, Melanie, appreciate you. Chuck said, any kind of information swept under the rug. I'm sure that governor will resign soon for talking about the narrative. Thank you, Eric. Buffering Mortality said, first time I got a notification. Well, thanks for being here. Jerry, thank you, guys. Someone said Trump had his hand in money. Well, here's the thing, and I don't want to talk about Trump too much again because it brings too much bad energy my way. But in general, it doesn't need to come from a place of hate, but people need to stand up for themselves, right? It doesn't matter who it is. Like, yes, he's better than Biden. It's not even debatable. Trump is way better than Biden. But if it's always this thing of like, well, you have two options and they're both going to do these 7 things, but he's going to do that. It's okay to stand your ground. I think the only way politicians will ever learn is that way. And I think even like when I read Kevin McCarthy's like Twitter feed, he's so out of touch, but he doesn't care. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he cares that much because he has the power. And I think these Republicans know how bad the Democratic Party is, right? Well, look how bad they are. You're not going to vote for them. And they're right. It's like, I have to vote for you guys because I don't have another option. Like, yes, I'm not thrilled with this and this, and I would do this differently, and I think they know that. And also there is money on the right as well. There's big donors on the left wing and there's big donors on the right wing. And when you put money in the pot, there's certain things that you want to do. I think the more I look at stuff, and maybe I'm naive, but because other people think otherwise. I personally don't think that Trump purposely did. I think he's just Trump. He's like certain things he's like 10 out of 10 and other things he's like totally oblivious of. And it's not to be like, oh my God, whatever, but I don't have to like everything he does. And I just, the more I see from him, he's like such a character where I think he needs to be told by his own side sometime, like, dude, what are you doing? But I don't know, maybe, I don't know what's going on, but definitely there's games being played and it's bigger than just what we care about. And I think the base is so loving, the Republican base is so nice that they never really challenge the right wing from the right. It's like left versus right. And there's no like analysis of our own team that's outside of like, well, Biden sucks. Yeah, Biden sucks. Well, the left is crazy. Yeah, the left is crazy. Well, AOC is crazy. Yeah, LSC is. Well, Ilhan Omar hates these people. Okay, that's all I ever hear. There's no like, well, why are we doing that? That, and then you say that, and people hate you. Like I got more hate, and I don't even really care. But I take responsibility. Maybe it's how I said it. I'm not playing the victim, but I got more hate and more vitriol from Trump supporters in the last 2 months. Not recently, but when I made that one video, than I got from liberals in like a year and a half of doing COVID analysis against everything they believe in. People did not like that. My goal, maybe I didn't say it properly, but my goal was to challenge my own team and tell them that I feel like our train's a little off course. But it's like people have been trained to be like a sports team. But I'm very competitive. I love playing sports. You got to talk to your own team. That's how you win. You don't win a game. And that's why Republicans always lose. I know this is like a corny, maybe like, a sports like reference, but I think it's true. At halftime, I always say that you talk to your own team. If you get into halftime and you say, well, the ref cheated us and this happened and they're hurting me, you lose. You don't talk about that. You say, we got to get better defense. We have to have better offense. You got to pass more. You got to get tougher on the boards. That's how you win a game, by getting tougher in your own team. I mean, I'm not trying to be like an out-of-touch jock or anything, but I do love sports and I'm very competitive. I like to win. That's how you win. I don't know. I give 110%, even if I'm down 10 points in 2 minutes. That's just the type of person I am. Maybe that's why I was able to accomplish so much, because I love to compete. I'm not a mean person, but I like to play. The world. Let's play ball. I'm not out here just trying to get some exercise. Like, let's get some exercise and let's try to win. So the GOP doesn't get that. They're like always reacting, always pointing and laughing at the left, but there's no like strategy of like, okay, so how are we going to achieve what we're going to achieve? Trump was the beginning of rolling that ball, and that's why he was so popular, because he started doing things that actually mattered, and he didn't really start a new war. People can criticize him, but he did a pretty damn good job in Syria, which makes him better than Obama, Bush, and Joe Biden's already drone striking civilians by mistake or whatever. But now it's like we're in this place where he's running around the country selling vaccines. His leadership's like non-existent. His email blasts are generic. He just wants people to donate, and he's just like Fox News now. It's like, so people don't know what to do. So that's why I'm questioning my own side. It's not like I hate you. I'm a Democrat agent. No, it's like I this is how I think. I'm hard on myself. I'm hard on my own team, because what we're doing is pathetic. I mean, lockdowns are pathetic. Running around the country selling pharmacy products is pathetic. Printing trillions of dollars is pathetic. It's not like I'm being, at least I don't think so, being like irrational. Like, oh, it's just this small thing. And I'm like, they act like that all the time. It's so small. It's just this small thing. The lockdown was a small thing to you. To me, that's pretty crazy, but whatever. Can I talk about the 5 to 11 push in October? I could talk about it, but here's what we're dealing with. I'll make it really short. The people running the show right now are medical authoritarian psychopaths. I've said this a lot. They're going to do this. If they could go in a time machine and inject your fetus with a vaccine from 15 years ago, they probably would. They're never going to stop. So people have to make the decision to stop. You get what I'm saying? I can't force people's hands, but if you have a kid right now, like I read a thread on Twitter, and I try not to be judgmental, or I try not to give advice, because I think, it's not wise to tell other people what to do, especially like I don't have a kid, so I don't want to tell other people what to do. But this guy who seemed like he was doing pretty well, blue check mark, worked for a media organization, said he won an Emmy or something. He was complaining about the California recall because Gavin Newsom won. And he said, California recalls have real consequences. Now my kid is forced to wear a mask. I'm so sad. And I messaged him, and I did it for his kid. I didn't do it to be a hypocrite, but I did it because I don't want his kid to get abused. And I said, dude, if you're poor or middle class, you have an excuse. And I'm not trying, but like, still, you should be a better father, but whatever. If you're wealthy, like it seemed like he was a wealthy guy. I'm like, bro, you have no excuse. You're a bad father. You're complicit. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like, if you have money and you're going to allow the state of California to abuse your kid, even though you know it's wrong, you're complicit. You're a bad father. If you're broke and you got not a pot to piss in, well, times are tough. You got to get a job. If you have stability, homeschool your kid or get them to hell out of California, or else you're complicit in the abuse of your kid. I can't, it's easier said than done, but I could guarantee I would never let that happen. And people are just letting it happen. In order to go to a college, most of these kids are forced to get vaccinated and their parents are just letting them do it. I'm sorry, but it's like, if you don't care about your kids, they're going to go somewhere else. If you don't raise your kids, the government and the television will. And that's what the government and the television is doing right now. They're being psychopaths. So it's time to be like a real, influence on your children. So as far as the vaccines for the 5 and 11-year-olds, they give, and this is the interesting thing where I hope this makes a lot of people revisit what's going on, because I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means. I don't believe in these labels of like, well, you hate all of this That's not true. I'm a science curious person who wants to just like learn and not just yell words. But anyway, look at the schedule of what they give to children. So it's not going to be hard for them to give this to kids because they already give this to kids. And parents have not been paying attention to their kids for the last 3 decades. So if you look at the vaccine schedule from 1960 and you look at the vaccine schedule from 1989, it's way bigger. And, they're circumcising kids and chopping a part of their foreskin off. And then they're putting it in facial creams for celebrities. And I'm not even being sarcastic. There are facial creams where the foreskin, because of its properties, are being used as anti-aging properties. So it's like, parents, this is a rude awakening. I think where it's like, it's time to pay attention to what's going on. Our food is trash. It's not even like legal to eat this food in multiple countries, most countries in the planet. Like our country, as great as it is, our agencies, our health, it's not the best. And it's very weird. So in general, it's like, I think people need to pay attention, because if you have a 5 or an 11-year-old, it's not like debatable. They're coming for your children. They're coming. They could not possibly make it clear. So there's not much for me really to say. Like, either people as a nation or enough people are going to do something about it and resist and find their own community, or they're just going to sit and get, conquered. And I think I saw Simone Gold, who's fantastic, doctor out of, I think, Los Angeles. She was speculating on, what if we had, maybe I should just read the tweet before I like misquote it, but she's talking about creating her own health facilities. I'm just going to read it real quick. It says, Dr. Simone Gold said, if America's frontline doctors open clinics in your state based on ethical treatment and transparent practice, would you go? So she's talking about building her own doctor's office. And it's not easy because no one wants to hear this, but it's like, if you're a nurse, you can cave to the demands because whatever, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I don't know your medical history, what you want to do, but eventually we're going to have to create our own communities, create our own doctor's office. It's not great, but that's real resistance. Like I have my line in the sand, so it doesn't really affect me. But as a parent or a doctor, whatever, this is the game that's being played. I didn't wish for it. I hate that this is happening because I hate seeing what it's doing to people. But without my bias, you take out my bias, the game that's being played is the people running the show mean almost nothing they say. And every time you do what they said, I could use 20 examples from 15 days to slow the spread to we're going to open on Easter to we're going to lock down for a few to once you get the vaccine, you could take the mask off to actually you should put it back on to mass testing all the time to no mandates to men. They're moving the goalposts. So there is no victim. I feel bad. Parents got to pay attention to their kids. If you're a parent and you're not paying attention, your kid will be raised by the medical authoritarian psychopaths. And if you don't care about it, or you're not in a position where you can do something about it, that's what's happening. I don't want it to happen, but like I said, I've never taken a test. I'm not getting the product. I'm not anti this or anti that, but I see what's going on. I'm not going to let them force me to do any of this stuff. And I'm not caving. I don't care if I can't travel to Hawaii. I don't care if I can't go to Coachella. I'm not doing it. I don't care if I can't fly ever again. I'll not fly. That's how serious I am. Why? Am I overreacting? No, because this is being used. I think, Emerald Robinson said it really good. They would probably call it a conspiracy, but she was like, they did this to do this. They did this to do this. They did this to do this. If you look at what they did from lockdown to vaccine to this to that, I mean, we've leapfrogged into a communist Chinese system. censorship ramped up, medical tyranny ramped up, forced medications ramped up, lockdowns, which is known as like a dictator, authoritarian, psycho, you could call it communist, fascist, whatever you want to call it. That was never a thing in America, and that came to America. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out they did this, they did this, they did this, and now they're trying to implement a whole new regime that is completely tyrannical, anti-constitutional, and to be quite frank, very reminiscent of some of the most dangerous and wicked regimes ever. So that's my stand. My stand is not simply against a product that I don't want to take, although that's it as well, but it's personal freedom, personal liberty. I'm not a lab rat. I'm not an animal. I'm not a slave. I'm not a peasant. And I don't subscribe to this world where AOC gets to smile and the workers behind here have to put a cloth mask over their breathing holes like animals, like abused show animals caged up. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not budging an inch. And, it's people are like, I want to fly. I want to do. I'm like, you say that, but then you say you want to do something, but people don't even realize that you're not going to be able to do it. Like you can do it for 3 months, but in 7 months, what they told you were going to be able to do, you're not going to do. For instance, you can get a vaccine to go on a cruise so you don't get tested, but now they're doing tests on cruises. So you got to get tested too. Well, I'm going to get a vaccine so I could go on a cruise because I don't want to wear a mask. Well, now that you're wearing a mask on a cruise, it's never going to end until people say no. I wish it was some other way, but that's my stand. It's deeper than just the medicine itself. It's like, I see that they're using that to do this. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a reality. It's just like what they're doing. I didn't ask them to do that. They decided to do that. So I identified it. So with the 5 to 11-year-olds, this is happening. If you have a 5 or 11-year-old, you have to be prepared for it happening. It sucks. I wish it wasn't, but it is happening. So you want to have a plan. And that reminds me, I'm not trying to bash Republicans too much because I seriously like them better than Democrats, and it's not even close. But if I could analyze my own team, everything's reactive, and people they always act surprised. I wanna joke about Tim Pool real quick. Who I think I don't watch his channel that much, but I think Tim Pool has had a really great year. I think he's come into himself, and that's everything. Like you get better as you go on. I think he's doing great. But I used to crack up when Tim Pool used to tweet all the time because he used to be like, holy shit, I'm not gonna say the word, but oh my god, like every tweet was like this reactionary, like oh my god, and they used to crack me up because I'm like, I don't hate Tim Pool, I like him, but I'm just like, this dude acts surprised by everything. Like, what are you so shocked about? The Democrats have gone insane. There's no mystery. It happened like every day. He was like, oh my god. He doesn't do that anymore. He's like he's learned that that's who they are, and now he just like jokes about it and makes funny jokes. I enjoy that better. I used to kind of poke at him a little, not to be rude, but I'm like, bro, if you're constantly shocked by this, the joke is on you because there's no mystery. It's like, it's not good what they're doing, but it's like, oh my God, what the heck? And that reminds me a lot of the GOP. They're just like, what the heck? Oh man, I can't believe Ilhan Omar. Like, I would be like, how are you surprised by that? Like I would be surprised if Ilhan Omar came on television. She's like, this would surprise me. Hey, I've had an awakening, and I think we should build a wall. Then I would pull a Tim Pool. I'd be like, what the heck? He doesn't do that anymore, but in general, it's like, that's shocking. Like AOC being like, I've realized that we shouldn't tax people with over $400,000. Like, yeah, that's shocking. It's not shocking when AOC and like Ilhan Omar do what they always do. Like, that's the least shocking thing ever. I would be shocked if I woke up and like Joe Biden's like, you know what? I think we should never lock down again, and we should just go back to normal. That's surprising. There is no like, oh my God, can you believe he did airline mandates? It's like, yeah, I have a tweet from March before the lockdown, before Operation Warp Speed, before they even announced the vaccine program. I literally tweeted, wouldn't it be crazy if you could never fly again without a vaccine? That's coming to this country. We're going to be worse than communist China because they didn't drain the swamp, and this is who these people are. I said that last March before the lockdown. I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I'm not asking people to call me a wizard or anything. I'm not that special. I promise you. maybe a little special. No, but I'm just kidding. But in general, this is who these people are. If they do this, they do this. If down is up and down, left is right and right is left, and nothing matters anymore, then nothing matters anymore. This is like psychologically, these people are cuckoo for Cocoa Puff, for more than Cocoa Puffs. They're cuckoo for Moderna Puffs. So you just see the fact that these people don't like tell the truth about anything. It's a scary world. If I'm like, listen, the sky is up, and they're like, well, technically the sky could be down. And I'm like, okay, so nothing matters anymore. We have 1 + 1 is 2. Well, 1 + 1 could be 3. It's like, yeah, they're going to get bad because nothing matters. Like they live in opposite worlds. So I saw this coming because they're crazy. I don't know. I'm trying to have fun with it because they're literally like lunatics. I don't know what to say. So I crack jokes so I don't punch the wall or something. Someone said you could see the writing on the wall. Yeah. And I'm not even that proud of it. It's just like these people are psychos. So it's just like, yeah, they're going to do this. And this is why I got so mad at Trump and the Republicans. Because you're talking to someone and people could say, he didn't know, whatever. I knew this. And I'm not like, oh, I'm not saying I'm smarter than Trump. He's way smarter than people think he is. He's not a dummy. Like people get mad at me and they're like, well, Trump doesn't know. I'm like, so you think he's dumb? I don't think he's dumb. He's like, I love Trump. I'm never going to critique him. He's just really dumb. I'm like, he's not dumb. If I saw, that's the Republican Party. The Democrats move the goalposts and the Republicans move with them. The whole thing. You know, they move the goalposts and then they move. And they call everybody anti-Semitic all the time. And then they get called anti-Semitic. They're like, I'm not an anti-Semite. I donate money to Israel. I'm like, yeah, but you got to stop. Don't use that word unless somebody literally says, I hate every person of this ethnicity. I want them all to die. It's like, okay, that guy's an anti-Semite. Like, that's okay to use that term. If someone just says, hey, we should cut the funding to that country, doesn't mean that this word is overused. So if you overuse it for them, they're going to overuse it for you. Trump acts like and then they call him Hitler reincarnated. It's like this game never ends if you keep playing the same game. So they move the goalposts here. They move the goalposts here. They lock down for 3 months. They lock down for 2 months. They print $10 trillion. They print $9 trillion. That's the Republican Party. They're always just slightly they have no leadership. And that's what Trump was doing for 3 years. But then he decided to sit in the back seat and he has to do this because they did it. Well, then he loses the election because he won the election calling Rosie O'Donnell disgusting. So I think the Overton window of what's allowed was eliminated for the better. So it's not like, oh, Trump might bother people. You think he didn't bother people the last 3 years? He's like, your face disgusting. You got a broken nose. You got a nose job. He didn't give a crap for 3 years. I enjoyed it quite thoroughly. What was wrong? Like, and then the funniest thing, I'm not trying to go on about it, is like, I say one joke and people will be like, anomaly, that's so messed up. I'm like, are we following the same person? Trump said that 1,000 times and everyone laughed hysterically. I say one thing, all of a sudden I'm so mean. I'm like, the double standards here, but it's funny. Someone said, just got to laugh at the insanity. I'm trying to make jokes, but with creating your own narrative, it's like, that's so important. I think DeSantis is doing a very good job. That's why they hate him so much. He's not perfect because then people are like, oh, I don't like that he did this. Yeah, but he's creating his own narrative and he knows how to equip himself with data and knowledge, and that's powerful. No one else is really doing that. Everyone else is just like reacting. That's why DeSantis. And I'm trying to explain this to other Republican politicians because there's actually benefit for you as a politician to be better. Ron DeSantis, no one really cared about him that much. He went from here to like neck and neck with Trump. How did he do that? By not sucking. How did Trump beat the Republican Party? By not sucking. You get what I'm saying? It's like, I'm trying to show them that that's how you become even bigger. Like, they need incentive. You could be richer. You could be more powerful. People like DeSantis because he's better than other governors at challenging the COVID narrative, at trying to preserve the freedom somewhat, and countering the media. DeSantis was able to say, that the data out of Israel said that that natural immunity might be better than the Pfizer shot, which is what Bloomberg reported, and so even Fauci weighed in on it. So it's like that's a good start. Like other governors should be doing that. And if they're not, it's okay to tell them to do it. It's okay. It's not like the worst thing in the world. Someone said the mainstream media hates him. Oh, I know. They're so nasty. They're so evil. They brainwash people to think that he's just killing everybody. And it's like, it's so bad. But he's a strong guy. He's a strong guy. God bless him. And, hopefully he keeps steaming. And he's young. He's in his 40s. He's a young guy. I think he's like 41 or something. I don't know. How old is he? Like, listen, I'm not trying to be mean because I don't care if you're 100. We love everybody here. But like, I'm getting a little bit tired of like, I don't know. I feel like Joe Biden's a little too sleepy. Ron DeSantis is 43. Yeah, that's super young. I think that's a good age for our leaders. I think after having two 70-year-old leaders, no disrespect, like the oldest presidents ever, it's time to go a little younger and not like AOC young. I'm talking like this. I think it would be okay. At a certain point, like it doesn't make you a bad person or anything, but like you retire from the NFL when you're like 35 because your physical body's not able to do it. Like most people retire by the time they're 60 and 70. I don't think you're supposed to run the entire world when you look and sound like Joe Biden. And to be quite honest, as great as Trump did in the first 3 years and as energetic as he is still sometimes, some of these interviews I'm listening to him, he sounds kind of old too. And I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like certain interviews, Trump has a lot of energy. Other ones where it's like, you did your thing, I don't know. I would much rather DeSantis or somebody younger. Not anybody, but like, I don't think it's a great idea for any profession to have that be like the new norm. It's like, let's go higher. Why stop there? Let's get an 120-year-old. Let's put them in the White House. It's like, we love our 120-year-olds, but it's like, in what other profession would they do that? They're like, hey, yeah, I'm trying to think of like who's like John Elway. It's like, dude, you should go out there and play. It's like, dude, he's 60. He doesn't want to play anymore. He's doing other things. Like, they don't do that in any other profession than this. I'm over it. Like, Joe Biden has made me over it very fast. It's just like, there's 500 million people out there. He's like, you got to get the jab. He's like, there's a 500 million Americans. It's like, bro, there's not even that many people in the country. He's like, yeah, but I'm over it. Someone said next year's midterm elections will keep America or totally destroy America. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out with all the mass mail-in ballots, though, but good luck. The Republicans are favored in the election, but we'll see how that lasts. We'll see. People got to hold their ground and make sure the Republican Party doesn't keep slipping and just be like, stop. That's the game. They're better than Democrats, but tell them to stop. Did I hear about the Canary Island volcano? I saw it, but I see a lot of people on the YouTube warning about DeSantis. Here's what I'll say. I've researched it. I've seen it. I'm not telling anybody to idolize politicians. Like, don't it's like people think you either have to love someone or hate someone. Like they have to be your idol or you just need to hate them all the time. If DeSantis rises to a bigger thing of power, you don't need to do that. So it's like, just listen to what he says. Praise him when he does the right thing, regardless of where he went to school or what secret society he was part of, etc. If he's doing the right thing, he deserves praise for doing the right thing. If he's doing the wrong thing, he deserves criticism for doing it. If he turns on a dime and ends up doing something totally bad, call him out. If everyone did that, it wouldn't even matter who ran or who was in office. So that's the thing with like Trump right now, and maybe that'll be the thing with DeSantis. The best thing about Trump was that he was, different, funny, likable, talking shit to everybody, making fun of Jeb Bush. Like that was the best of Trump, saying things outside the media. That's what made Trump so amazing. The downside of that is people now love Trump so much that they don't want to question him. If you took Trump away from his policy over the last year and put it on to any other Republican, everybody would be against it, or a lot of people would be. But with Trump, they don't want to be. So that's like the dangerous side of him now, where it's like with DeSantis or anyone else, just don't act that way. That's all you have to do. You don't have to act like he's Trump. Just like them, appreciate them. Don't hate them as a person. I'm not talking about like air out his public information or something. That's what people think. Like, I'm not that type of person. I'm not diving into your personal life. You're a politician. It's like a quarter, if I'm a quarterback, your job is not to dive into I'm throwing touchdowns. If I throw 5 interceptions, you don't have to say I played a good game. You could say, Tom Brady, you suck that game. I still like you, but that sucks. You got to play better. There's nothing wrong with that. That's Trump's job as president. DeSantis' job as governor. At a certain point, DeSantis might have a bigger job. Your job is not to pretend like they're your best friend or a video game character. Your job is to assess how they're doing as the president of the United States. Among all the stupid shit that I think Trump did in the last year, I still think the first 3 years, he was the best president in modern history. The last year, I think he was one of the worst. And I'm not blaming him because the whole world turned into tyranny. But it's like, I still give him credit for what he did do. But if it changes, I'm not supposed to act like it didn't change. That's all I'm asking people. So DeSantis, feel free to, look up what he's doing and what, and say, I don't trust him because he was in this or that. I know he went to Yale, and I think it says he was part of one of those little societies or whatever. But in general, if he's saying the truth on television and spreading the truth to millions of people, I appreciate that. If he decides to turn on a dime and turn into like Nancy Pelosi, people got to disagree with it. For some reason, it's crazy to me. People have been, the Trump era, in some ways, it's the greatest thing that ever happened. It's like a paradox. And in other ways, it turned people like so, I don't know, tribal, to the point where like neither side, like it's like, this is my team. I'm not even going to pay attention. These are my guys. Like, and it's like, geez, it's not good. But at the same time, there are so many blessings that came along with it that it's good. But so you get what I'm saying? It's okay to look at that stuff and be skeptical, but just don't go like full on. And that's what the left wing did. They're like full haters. They don't even care about anything. They have no morals or values. Like, I just hate what they don't think anymore. I'm reading the science, every day. People can't bully me because I equip myself with knowledge. This is just today's research, and this is not even all of it. I'm reading the data every day. I've gotten a lot wiser. That's not really through education, but I've gotten smarter and more educated because every day I read information. Every day I look at things that from both sides. These liberals, they don't know anything about science. They just yell at people all the time. So it's like they were somehow brainwashed into just hating Republicans, hating DeSantis, hating Trump, and they don't know anything. And then you flip to the other side and you have people who love Trump, and a lot of people are cool, and most people are cool, but there's also a lot of people, like, when I say one thing, they like, dude, it's crazy to see like the programming where it's like, I have that one video where I said Trump, his stance is super weak, because it is. And I get comments all the time, and it's crazy seeing what people say. Like, it doesn't bother me because everyone has their own perspective, but I'm like, my gosh, they programmed both sides. And like, people are like robots. Like, I don't agree with it, but I don't want you to say it, damn it. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? But it's okay. How do we get term limits for these politicians? I guess you'd have to pass it, but I don't think term limits would really matter that much. I don't think it would really matter. Is AOC better than Nancy Pelosi? She might be worse. They're a different type of corrupt, right? AOC is like narcissistic psychopath, like crazy eyes, like, commie. And Nancy Pelosi is just sneaky career politician, do whatever you have to do to get money and power and lie constantly. Like, I think AOC believes what she says, kind of, and Nancy Pelosi is just a stone cold liar. I don't think AOC would be an improvement. I think they're both equally wicked. So I mean, I get that people want term limits because maybe it would help a little bit, but I don't think it would help all that bit. People just got to get more aware and then vote for people. Vote for people that you like better. But I don't know. I just think it wouldn't end there. All right, a few more and then I'm going to roll out. Someone said the stars have no influence on your day-to-day life. Well, it depends who you listen to. If you like look up to Lil Nas X and he's like your source of news, then they do. If you don't, God gifted you with your own choice to listen to who you want to listen to. How about a legit election? That's probably the best idea. Oh, you meant zodiac stars? Yeah, I'm not a zodiac person, but some people like that. Let's see. Someone said voting makes zero difference. I think it makes a minor difference, but I think here's my personal opinion. I know this is not going to be popular among some. I think certain Democrats and Republicans think that voting matters this much, and I think it matters this much. Like, it'll save you some money. In some senses, it can, but I think the Republicans, they sell it like, we're going to close the border. And it's like, did you though? Did you really? I mean, you tried to build the wall and successfully built something. Like, they didn't close the border. We're going to do this. We're going to stop social. And it's like, you're going to get a few federal judges or whatever. So I think locally it matters. Nationally it matters a little bit, but I think they sell it. Like, if you read your emails, they're like, the border's open, and it's like, yeah, no, he is destroying the country, but you guys did have 4 years and you ended in lockdowns and failure. So it's not like everything was great and then Joe Biden got in and screwed it up. It's like Republicans buried themselves in a 50-foot hole and then pretended like they never did that. Like, they ruined their own election. They brought in mass mail-in ballots. They allowed the Democrats to sneak a way to do all this stuff, and they fell for it. And here's my thing. They fell for it for way too long. I'm not this wizard genius where I knew everything all the time, but in general, as 15 days to slow the spread, my ass is locked in the house, so I have 15 days to pay attention. Within 5-10 days, I could figure out very easily, we need to open the country up. And Trump, as the quarterback of the nation, you could say he doesn't have power, but he is the leader of the Republican Party. And if he says jump, a lot of them say how high. He called for an extension of the lockdown past Easter. And then he told Georgia's governor that he doesn't agree with the open up. And he led other people into the lockdown. So he buried himself. He ruined his own election. I feel bad for our country and his supporters. I don't feel bad for him. He blew it. So did the Republican Party. So it's like, the election matters, but they're such liars. They blew it. The Republican Party had the country and blew it completely with no shame, because they don't need shame. People think that they'll do something, but whatever. Someone said they did it because they have no backbone. I don't know. What is it? No backbone? Definitely that. But also, like, I don't know. It got pretty obvious within 10 days. I'm like, and then Trump knew this. This was the most disappointing part. Trump knew that this was a bad idea. He said, we got to open the country up. We got to open the country up. The cure can't be worse than the disease. And then he flipped. He looked at that big fake chart, the big model by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, et cetera, and said, oh no, oh no, we got to shut down again. And he blew it. And that's when he lost the election. He didn't lose the election in November. He blew it for himself, but he'll never take any responsibility. He'll blame every other Republican, this person, that. He blew it. He ruined his own election. He ushered in mass mail-in ballots. He was on the wrong side of this entire debate for 2-3 months. And then he decided to sell a vaccine like a big pharma salesman. It's not leadership. That's not what won him in 2016. He lost it for himself. If the narrative was combated earlier, we could have done something about mass mail-in ballots. But a month or 2 months or 3 months into it, I'm watching his speeches on television, and he's saying, Brazil should have locked down. Sweden should have locked down. I saved the world. Egomaniac. I saved the country with my lockdowns. That's what he was saying 3 months after the lockdown. He blew it for himself. Do I agree with mass mail-in ballots? No. Did the Democrats pull a fast one? Sure. But the that's what they do. They're professional losers. They're professional losers. And then they convince you to give them hundreds of millions of dollars so they could suck up your money and serve other interests above you, and then do just enough to look like they're doing something, but not enough to solve anything. So, and maybe that's the most frustrating part, is because I paid attention every day. Not only do I work online, but I had nothing to do because they locked me in my house. So in general, I'm researching even more than I ever do every day. I watched every bit of the way. And it wasn't like Democrats just blew it and Republicans were fighting their hardest. Republicans blew it for months. And then they decided to wake up 3 months later, and it's too late. You blew it already. That's all they did. But you can't say that. You got to just pretend like it was only Gavin Newsom. No, nearly every Republican governor was in on it. The leadership was trash, and it's what it is. So it's in the past now. But that's what happened. And every debate I've had, I debated, I'm not even going to name their names, but they didn't know this. You know, they're not going to admit that. But when I debated them, they had distorted history because they didn't pay attention. So I brought up the dates, and all of a sudden, every debate I've been in, they're like, well, yeah, but you just have derangement. I'm like, whatever. I'm over it. Someone said, look over here now. Are you talking to me, or is that like a... Okay, I didn't know if... Someone said Republicans are weak representatives. Well, I get it, though. And here's the thing. We don't play the victim here. So I understand why certain people do what they do. It's difficult. It's very difficult to tell the truth. It's very difficult to take the path of Donald Trump. It's very difficult to do what Ron DeSantis is doing, despite what people don't like about him. It's not easy to counter their narratives because the left wing has 30 plus years, pop culture on their side. But here's the thing. Here's what Trump helped, and this is what he needs credit. He deserves credit for it. The narrative has shifted. I've never seen in my life, and I give Trump, people think I'm such a hater. I give Trump full credit for this because he really was the catalyst, or at least one of the major ones, if not the biggest one, for doing this. He shifted and took power away from the media. Yes, he gave them more ratings. Yes, they hated on him. Yes, a lot of people agree with them. But online now, you're starting to see big influencers, people that are more powerful than, like, I'm not trying to brag, but it's like most rappers, they don't have the influence that even I have. I don't even need to rap to have influence anymore. I will, and I'll drop some songs, but it's like nobody cares about these celebrities. They're boring. They're lame. Nobody wants to watch the Emmys. The ratings are going down. So, the tides have shifted. So it's not easy, but we've already made a lot of progress, and there's no reason to stop. So a lot of Republicans are afraid, right? I don't want to seem racist. I don't want to seem like a bad person. They're never going to like you. This is the easy part. It's like, they're not going to give you credit anyway. They're going to call you the meanest, craziest. They're going to say you're Hitler reincarnated for doing one thing that's right or even wrong, whatever. So why be afraid of, that's what Republicans do. They need to start creating their own narrative, pushing back and saying, I don't care. For me, for instance, I know I'm not a racist. I have probably, I don't know for sure, I have 1.7 million people, I think, or 1.6 million people on Facebook, 200,000+ people, 400,000 people on my Instagram. I have like 2.5 million people or so across all platforms. I have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people of all types that watch my stuff. I don't need to pander to certain people to prove how not racist I am. I got more viewers in Nigeria than most left-wing news analysts or rappers have. So it's not a competition. I don't care what they say about me. I'm going to say what I believe. And, I'm not going to play the defense all the time. I talked to somebody who was, a black leader recently. And I told him, I said, as somebody who's not black, it's difficult to call what they're doing with the medical stuff slavery, because as a white person, if you call something slavery, it doesn't look good, right? He laughed and he knows it's true, because it's like, as someone who's white and someone who's black, there's different struggles to be had, right? There's different things that, like, if you're black, there's things that you deal with as far as perception of other people and things that you say that people will act differently towards. And, I think that was a moment where it's like, it's nice to understand that other people face different trials and tribulations, but I was just joking, but I'm also serious, where it's like, if I was black and I'm like, yo, the medical stuff's slavery, it hits way harder than if you're white calling it slavery, because a lot of people are looking at you and they're like, oh no, like they have a monopoly on it because they're only talking about one type, but they're not talking about Libya, etc. So it's like, that's the type of stuff where I know the traps and what they're going to try to say, but I figure out a way to say it anyway and be clear about it. But it's very there's certain things to say as a person who looks like me, and then there'd be different things to say that are tough. I just don't care because I know what I'm talking about and it doesn't bother me. But a lot of people are afraid. You're being told if you're this skin color, you have to feel this way. If you're this skin color, you have to feel this way. The most freeing thing is to break out of that. Like even Kanye, he's like, you're not going to bully me. They try to tell him, well, you look this way, so you have to feel this way. And he didn't know everything politically, but he was like, I'm not controllable. People have their opinions on Kanye too. I think he's the real deal. He's not perfect, but he's like, you're not going to tell me what to think or what to say. And that's the game. I'm not reading that. I read that comment. I'm not reading it though. Well, with the word slavery too, the word slavery means to take away somebody's freedom of action or choice. So to enslave someone is to take away their freedom of doing stuff. So technically they are enslaving people right now by definition, but branding in Hollywood and branding in the media and branding in education is in one direction. So if you think of genocides, right? You don't think of the Bolshevik Revolution. You don't think of the Armenian genocide. You don't think of times in history where people with light skin were genocided. You think of, well, I guess light skin would be Jewish people, but you think of the Holocaust because that's the most marketed and pushed genocide in history. So that's what most people don't even know about the Bolshevik Revolution. They don't even know Armenian people were murdered because they don't really teach about it. So it doesn't mean that one's more important than the other. I guess depending on your heritage, you care about one. Like Armenians care about the Armenian genocide. Jews care about the Holocaust. That's natural. But in general, it's like you don't hear about certain things. So if you were to say one of those words, people get mad because they think they have like a monopoly on it. And it's the same with slavery, where there was slavery 300-400 years ago. There was also slavery a couple years ago. There's also slavery going on now today, but the media and education system has marketed it in a way where they're trying to extract emotions out of people and use them. So you have all these slavery movies. There's nothing wrong with it to document history, but they're trying to make people pissed off. They're trying to bring that up because if they could take that and use people's emotions of the past, they can control the present moment and the future. So a lot of these, films that they're doing, there's nothing wrong with it, but they're utilizing and using people's emotions and fear. And Democrats and liberals are very good at that, way better, to the sense of like I said, most people in the Black youth community in the major cities, they're not feeling good about forced injections, yet by demographic, they will vote 80-90% for that party, even though that party is doing what they don't want to do. It would be the Republican Party that gives them more freedom and liberty, but they've been, pushed this narrative of, remember slavery? That's like the Republicans slave, even though the Democrats now, with all the forced injections and lockdowns, they're acting like the slave master. You can't say that. If you're Black, you can't think that way. It's the Democrats that act more like slave masters. And even historically, it was Republicans who, employed and voted for Black people 100 plus years ago. It was always the Democrats who weren't Black until like 20, 30 years ago in the Senate. I think the first one was like 1990s and first Black, but that's not what they're pushing. So they're good at like, well, this is like this. So people think they have a monopoly on certain words like slavery, but it's all to enslave people now. There's a Marcus Garvey quote. Marcus Garvey, famous, I think, Jamaican American leader. He said something along the lines of, actually, let me look it up so I don't screw it up, because he said it much more eloquently than I'm gonna do. Garvey, hold on. It's one of my favorite quotes ever. It's about slavery of the mind, and it's so true. Here's I think it was a Bob Marley quote too, or Bob Marley used it. Marcus Garvey, famous Black leader, said in 1937, "We are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery because whilst others might free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind." So he was trying to tell people back then, you have to free your mind. If they can enslave your mind, they can then enslave your body and your life. So it's very powerful. And even today, it's true. I mean, for instance, with border security, it's a small example, but it could also be big. illegal immigrants, whether they come from Haiti or whether they come from Mexico or whether they come from South America, there's no advantage in America for Black Americans as a racial demographic, as a voting bloc, as a business owners, like as employees, whatever, CEOs. No matter which way you spin it, there's virtually no benefit to supporting illegal immigration if you're into Black wealth and Black financials. But because they got a picture of someone Black at the border, they are now going to dupe a lot of people into thinking that those are their allies, where it doesn't mean you have to hate that person, but they're the agenda of open borders and like elite, that only disenfranchises you more. Your vote matters less. Your racial demographic is, you know, as a citizen, at least you're losing power. You don't even have the same rights as people who come over illegally. Imagine having roots in this country for hundreds of years through your ancestors, going through everything that people went through, only to have a Democrat tell you that somebody at the border from Guatemala has more freedom to not get the vaccine than you do. That's what they're doing, but people don't realize it because they hold a picture up and it's out of context. It's so sneaky, but that's why Marcus Garvey is right. You have to free your mind. If you can't free your mind, they're always going to trick you into doing stuff. And I hate to make the comparison, but they have tricked people into covering their nose and their mouth. Listen, whether you're Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, your mouth is part of your identity. It's also part of your communication. Not all communication is verbal or sound-based. It's also, you know, smile, mouth, frown, facial expressions. That's a huge part of communicating. They have tricked people into blocking that, but allowing people that are wealthy at a Met Gala event to unblock it. I can't stand when I'm somewhere and the employees are masked. If I'm not wearing a mask, you shouldn't have to wear a mask. I'm not a supremacist that I'm better than, but it's the Democrats and the liberals mostly that are master manipulators. They focus on race so much because if they could piss people off with pictures in the past, then they can get away scot-free. Oh, we're going to do this and that. Who benefited from the George Floyd riots? George Floyd didn't benefit. Maybe his family did. But overall, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, New York, Los Angeles, these cities didn't get better where people ravished. The city declined. You know, Black neighborhoods and certain businesses, et cetera, were destroyed. The property value probably was not thrilled with that. Who benefited? Liberal groups? I don't know. Google how much money they raised off of the George Floyd riots. Progressive causes through Act Blue, hundreds of millions of dollars. They cashed out like a cash cow. That's who benefited. They're master manipulators. And you can't force somebody to get that. And I've noticed personally, because I've had a lot of conversations with some of my favorite people. I mean, a lot of people do get it, but some of my favorite people that I consider great leaders for their racial group. And I talk to certain people and I could see the hate and the pain, and I understand it, but the hate for another race is so strong that they're constantly getting duped into doing the wrong thing because the emotion is just too big. Where even people that I love and respect and I appreciate, and I'm like, man, I appreciate what you're doing. I don't mind that you put on for your people. It's like there's so much, well, the white man did this, and they're always getting fooled by the sneakiest white men of all and blaming like low and middle income white people who have nothing to do with it, who don't even feel that way. So, you know, the only way to get over, someone said, why whippings? Well, here's the thing. If you look at the picture, it's their reigns. As far as did someone literally get whipped? In the next 2 weeks, I'm sure if you pay attention, you'll figure that out. But they're actual horse reins. Did he use that to try to scare one of the people into not smuggling something or so? We'll find out as it goes on. But I'll say this with the George Floyd thing and why I've been so patient. When the George Floyd thing came out, like most people, I looked at the picture and I said, that's totally messed up. There's zero excuse for that. It's just horrible. After the body cam footage came out 2 months later, I saw the full body cam footage and I was thinking like, oh, I just thought in my head, and maybe that's my fault, that they just threw this guy to the ground, put a knee on his neck, and just gave him no other option. They told him to sit in the car and weren't even putting their hands on him. And he was so screwed up on drugs that he wouldn't sit down. He requested to lay on the floor, and he's enormous. Does that make it right to put a knee on his neck? I think it's a bad optic for sure. I don't know the strategy of what to do to somebody and how, like applying too much pressure. I'm willing to give people that, but that's a lot different than most people. Most people don't even know that happened. They're literally just like sit in the car. I don't want to sit down. I want to lay on the floor. I want to lay down. He like requested to lay on the floor. I'm sorry, but even if it's still wrong, it's way different from the narrative. So it's the same with this. You catch one picture of one guy doing a horse thing, and they're going to act like he's out there whipping people like it's 1700s, when in reality, he might have never even touched anybody. So I don't know for sure. Maybe he acted out. This wouldn't be the first time a cop or a border agent did the wrong thing. So I'm not going to act like they're innocent victims who've never made a mistake in their life, but I'm going to be patient and wise and try to learn what happened instead of just emotionally act. But most people emotionally act, and most people have been trained, well, that's a white man and that's a black man. But here's the thing, the real white master, the real white billionaires, the real white world controllers, they're pushing this narrative. Because if you pay attention to that border agent who probably makes less than 100K a year and is probably busting his ass doing dangerous work that all his haters could never do, as you focus on him, the real billionaires and the real white people and the real light-skinned people are doing a number on the world. So that's the big trick, is like, man, I'm gonna focus on this guy for 3 weeks and these people. It's like it's a perfect picture to do the same thing that the George Floyd thing did. It's gonna do wonders for a lot of people and their causes, and it's gonna let money be funneled to causes that are not going to do anything. When the big border fundraising was going on Facebook, there was one organization, I think it was like RACES, it was like RAICES or something. They had a picture of a woman and a kid, and they said, we're raising money. This is a true story. We're raising money for parents being separated at the border. Parents are being separated at the border. Border security is so mean. They hate Hispanics. They're just separating the kids. They raised more money at the time than anybody has ever raised on Facebook. I don't remember, hundreds of millions of dollars. It was something insane. This one organization raised more money than anyone has ever raised on Facebook ever. The picture that they used was not of someone being separated at the border. Even Washington Post admitted that picture was taken out of context. Someone just took it of the kid crying and saying that they were being separated. The girl was never separated from her mother. In fact, the mother smuggled and stole the daughter. They had a father with a great paying job. I believe it was in Guatemala or Honduras. I can't remember. And the father was terrified because his daughter was smuggled by the mother. And the father had 3 jobs, and he had other kids as well. And the mother took one of the kids without his permission, went towards the border, hired a coyote, which is highly dangerous. And he said, I have money. It's not like we're poor here. She just wanted to take the kid and go to America, against the permission of the father, who also, I believe, had part custody. So that was the real story. They used it and made a whole fake narrative around that she was separated. This is who these people are. But you see this ethnicity, you see a kid, you see a border agent, and people don't think. That's how they control people, though. I'm not for, girls being separated at the border, but also I'm not for little girls getting raped. And that's what's happening a lot with people who come over the Mexican border. A lot of these girls, and according to Huffington Post and certain studies, not that they're the most, trustworthy source, but they were referencing another study. They were saying upwards of 80% of young girls were getting raped, 80%. So when you're dealing with this real stuff, yeah, it's not all peaches and cream. People are being raped. People are being killed. Girls under the age of 10 are being sexually abused. So you got to understand that. So if somebody comes at the border with a kid and it's a coyote or whatever, you're not supposed to keep them together, because then they'll get raped again. A lot of the kids, I believe a majority, they're not coming with their father. They're coming with somebody who took them or smuggled them or is doing it on behalf of someone else. So they're not separating people because they hate Hispanics. They're doing it because an overwhelming amount of these girls are getting sexually abused, and they don't want to lock the girl up or put them in a facility with somebody that's not their parents. And that's the majority of the cases. But people don't think anymore. And it's unfortunate because both sides are emotional. Emotion is not a left-wing or a right-wing thing, but I do find that a lot of racially backed groups, whether it be Hispanic or Black, a lot of the liberal ones, or even some of the conservative ones, they don't think that much. They just, if they see a picture or they see a story, They just jump right down its throat. And I get why people do that, because I used to do that too when I was younger. And all I knew was what Jon Stewart or Trevor Noah or Jimmy Kimmel said. That's all I knew. So I would be like, oh, it must be true if they said it. But now that I know they lie so much, I try to be patient with every story, whether it's my story or not. It's like, I don't know what happened with that. But in general, I will say this: if there's 100,000 people or 10,000 people at the border and people are running this and that, like, I don't know what to say, but if you don't want to get arrested, don't go. Don't try to break into America. It's not that hard, but people want to do that. Well, people need to come. Okay, then open the borders, then open your house, do the same thing. Yeah, I get it. I have money. I work my ass off. Some people don't. Should I open my front door at night and just let any homeless person come in? Why don't you do that? Go move to Skid Row and leave your front door open and say, well, I have more money than you, so you're allowed to come in mine. Because that's the logic people have. Well, some people need to do it. Sure, there's billions of people. Just open the door. Give up your house then. There's somebody who makes $100 a month. Give your house to them. People don't want to do that. They just want a virtue signal, allow America to be completely overthrown. And then when they're locked in their house and forced vaccinated, they're wondering why. Because you're constantly getting duped by sickos. And the real supremacists and the real slave masters are the ones manipulating this type of information. So everybody fights with each other all the time, and they never focus on the common goal, which is, for most people, freedom, liberty, and prosperity. Those are pretty common ones. I don't want to be told what to do. I'm not a slave. And also, I would like to have some money to provide for my family. But we can't get to that conversation. But we will, and we are. So it's all good. Someone said, yeah, open your door. Well, kindness is not weakness. I think that's the easiest way to explain it, is show some sympathy, show some empathy, show some humanity for people struggling all over the world. But kindness is not weakness. If you are weak, you are not kind. America right now is weak. Our border is weak. We are not kind. We are weak. And the weak people are some of the most wicked people. The same people that want open borders, the same people that are going to jump on that picture of a Haitian, are the same people telling black people in New York City not to come into a restaurant if they don't get the big pharmacy injection. It's the same people. This is how they operate. This is why no one ever figure out that they're doing it, because they have an unlimited way to distract. So if you love black people so much, why aren't you allowing them to eat in a restaurant in New York City? Because they're not good people. They don't like black people. They like using black people. They don't like Hispanics. They like using Hispanics. And I pray that Hispanics in America are waking up, because Hispanics work their ass off. And in a lot of ways, if you're a U.S. citizen, you're paying tax money. So why the hell, if you're Hispanic and a citizen or black and a citizen, why the hell would the U.S. government take 10, 15, 20, 30% of your paycheck? They're better than you. They're not better than you. They're going to drone strike a kid in another country and apologize for it like they did this month or last month. So this is why we never get anywhere. But we'll see. We're making progress. And that's all we can do. I've had conversations with people that we might not see eye to eye on everything, but we're getting to that point, because that's how you get there. Communicate, show proof, try to be the best version of yourself you could be, and hopefully people see it. Some people will, some people won't, but someone said, I don't get it, anomaly. People crossing the border or breaking the law while people are paying money to get in the country. Well, yeah, there's so many angles to it, but I guess a lot of people don't know how to explain it. And there's a way to get through to people. I think the left wing seems really nice and the right wing seems really cruel, right? And this is why the left wing is always able to capitalize, because the left wing is, in my opinion, between both parties, by far the most cruel. What they're doing to Americans, what they're doing overseas is the worst, but they're better at explaining it to children and also certain minority ethnic groups. That's why people vote Democrat, because the right wing sounds like they hate, just close it. Who cares about them? I get it. But at the same time, if I was black or if I was 19 or 20, like when I was, even in this body, I didn't like the Republicans because they never explained to me why. And I had no problem with illegals. I had no problem with anybody of another ethnicity. So I'm thinking to myself, man, it's the liberals who are nicer. Republicans have to figure out how to explain it, because it is kind of mean to just be like, I don't give a shit about that. Like, listen, if I grew up in Mexico and I was broke, maybe I would stay my ass there. Maybe I would come to America. In fact, I have family that did come to America, so I understand immigration. I understand border. I get it all. But in general, it's like, there's a way to be strong and explain it without being such an asshole. And I think a lot of Republicans, maybe they don't mean to be, but some of them do mean to be. And it's like, I don't care. I'm not a softie at this point in my life. I'm not like, oh, I get you completely, but it depends what you're trying to do. If, being unapologetic is good, but there is a way to explain it, I think, to certain people to explain why it's not good, and I try to do that, like what I did today. And I think a lot, like, I don't, if I was a border agent, then I would do my job. If I was a president, then I would do my job. I'm not. So my job personally is not to hate on people, but if I was a border agent, that literally is my job to make sure no one comes in. So as a human, I get it. But as an American citizen, a taxpayer, and a reasonable person, what's going on there is insane. So but we've talked about this before, and maybe I'll do a whole stream about it, to understand why liberals dominate your kids' minds and the minds of the kids. They know how to reach out to them and tell them the world is screwed up. The country is screwed up. And that gravitates towards kids because they know that it's screwed up. A lot of Republicans say it's great. Everything, America's the best. And like, we got to lock the borders up. It just doesn't sound good to kids. It doesn't. I know that because I was a kid. So it's not to say it's wrong. It's just, you have to, if you want to win the youth at a certain point, I think it would be wise to try to figure out why so many kids are going liberal. And that's why it's cooler for a lot of them, but that's changing. It's not that cool anymore. They're wearing masks. It's actually really lame and really like corny. And there's a cultural shift happening. So just something to think about, to be persuasive and figure out how to get kids to not get caught up in that. All right, one more question. I got to go out. Someone says it doesn't sound good if you're a softie, but here's the thing, Alex, like I'm 31 right now. Okay. So I agree with you, but at a certain point when you're 12 years old, you're not a 40-year-old man. So you're literally softer when you're 12 years old, right? You could be like, oh yeah, grow up. You're soft. When your skin's softer when you're 12, you're smaller, you're still growing. Like, you're literally a softer, weaker human, physically, even sometimes mentally. You haven't learned that much, and you're still evolving and growing as like a literal human. So you can tell your kid, oh, you're a softie, but it's like, I mean, if you're a good parent and they trust you and they're working hard at sports, maybe they'll like you, or maybe they'll hate you. And maybe that's why they're liberal, where it's like, telling a kid that they're soft, or telling a kid that they're too stupid and they should, that's why they go liberal. You don't have to listen to me or believe me, because I don't care. I'm one person with a live stream, but there's a reason that kids are so liberal. Yes, it's the education system. Yes, it's the music, but conservatives allow that to happen over time. And how did they do it? Many ways, but that's one of them. So it's not like, oh yeah, you're so dumb. It's like, no kid wants to hear that. I was 19. I know who I am now. I'm not who I was when I was 19, but 19-year-olds can still vote. So joke's on you. If you want that vote, that's fine. If you want to lose the future, that's one way to do it. I don't know. It's up to you though. I remember what I thought when I was 19. And I knew why I leaned a certain way. But I can't say I was ever like a Democrat. I thought they were phony too, but I always thought Republicans were worse. I always thought conservatives were meaner. And there was nobody that I saw in pop culture, there was nobody that I saw on television who explained to me that Republicans were not meaner and were not horrible. It wasn't until I was 27 or 26 that I even understood that. It took me almost a decade. So I wasn't a dummy. I liked Alex Jones. I didn't even know he was a libertarian. I thought he was whatever. No one explained to me that Ron Paul was a libertarian. And casually watching the media, I didn't know. I liked Ron Paul. I liked Alex Jones when I was younger, but I never knew that they leaned right wing. No one told me. They never even explained it fully. So is that partially my fault? Of course, but this is also what people need to understand. That I'm going to go. Not everyone's a high information voter. At this point, I would say people probably who watch my channel and myself, like we're higher information voters than most because we pay attention. Not everyone's like that. And they vote anyway. Their vote counts just as much as mine, and it should. But in general, I think in politics, people think that everyone cares about politics. Most people don't care about politics. They get their politics from a rapper, whether it's myself or another, but also, they get it from Trevor Noah or Jimmy Kimmel or Instagram or, Demi Lovato. And that's literally all they know. They like those people. Those people say something woke and they believe it. So we have to figure out how to reach people that, and there's ways to do that. TikTok, my video has like 300,000 views. It's about vaccines in the salad. There is no major bias in my video. I'm just like, they're literally putting mRNA vaccines in salad, or they claim to be doing that. That's something that could go viral, that could get through to both sides, where it's not like Trump, 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 MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. It's like, it's fine to do that. There's a place and a time for everything. No disrespect. I'm just saying, that's something to think about. I think if you want to gain these votes and you want to be persuasive, and I think the GOP doesn't understand that at all. Luckily I don't care about money or power or stuff, so I'm just able to do my own thing. But I see who they're paying. I see who these. I'm a strategist for the Black Republic. It's a joke how the GOP wastes their money. They're spending millions of dollars for the most out of touch Black conservatives to do joke work where they're getting millions of dollars to do nothing and just say corny things that no Black people want to listen to. People like Bryson Gray are doing more than the GOP just by making rap music that's good. Bryson was here earlier. I don't know if he's still here, probably not. But Bryson, he doesn't have a budget from the GOP, but he does more because he just makes rap music and it gets millions of streams and kids are listening to it and it's cool. You don't need to pay $5 million and be like, oh, we're going to build your business. It's like, no one's listening to you. Like the voters are not listening to that. But, it is what it is. But I just see them they try so hard to reach out to minorities and it just comes off so corny. But that's politics. The left does that too, but somehow more successfully. Michelle, thank you so much. Am I Black? No, do I look Black? Hold on. My hat's black. GodBlessHats.com. No. I'm mostly cracker. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm mostly white. I'm Italian, Puerto Rican, Polish, Czechoslovakian. I'm part Puerto Rican though, so I am a majority white. And I've never taken a test. I don't know if I'm 15, 10, 20, 20. I don't know the exact percentage of Puerto Rican I am, but I don't want to give them my shit. So I've never got tested. It's up to you. Maybe I'm 25%, maybe I'm 15, maybe I'm 12.5. I'm not really sure. I could probably find out if that would make you feel good. I get rejected. People don't know what it's like growing up with different, nobody wants you sometimes. They're like, you go over there. I could play both sides of the fence though. Someone said it's not important. I think who you are as a person matters much more for sure. Who you are. But I think it's okay to talk about, I'm not one of these people like, you can't talk about it. You could talk about race. I think there's things going on, but yeah, me personally, in my personal life, I gravitate towards people I actually like, the individual, your soul, your content of your character, stuff like that, stuff that people don't care about anymore, but I do. Someone said he was picked on and bullied his whole life. That's not, are you talking about me? I was picked on and bullied my whole life? No. I would say people tried to pick on me at some point. So some people were mean, but no, I wasn't like a nerd in the corner, like, one day I'll get back at you. It wasn't like that. I mean, like any kid, I definitely got picked on some. I got picked on the other day. I was playing a sport and someone kept calling me Jesus, like a girl. She's like, haha, Jesus. Like, I'm just like, excuse me, ugly. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that. But in general, she's like calling me Jesus, like, ha, 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 ha. I have like, people are still trying to bully me. Liberals are trying to bully me. medical authoritarian cycles are trying to bully me. Ugly chicks are trying to bully me. I'm like, I'm out of your league, girlfriend. Let's calm down. I'm way out of your league for you to be making jokes like this. Like, I felt like I was back in high school. Like someone was making fun of me on the playground, but that's the type of shit people do. It doesn't offend me. Like, oh, I didn't even realize I had long hair. Thanks for letting me know. It's like, calm down, ugly girl. You know, no, I'm just kidding. But in general, in my head, I'm like, are we back in kindergarten again or something? People are trying to bully me on the playground, but it's okay. Someone said, I've watched you grow over the years. Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully I've gotten better and not worse. I think I have. Someone said, you are who you are. Who cares about skin color? It's who you're inside who matters. I have a thing I want to say too. You know, I don't know if this is controversial. I'm trying to think, like, everything is taboo now. So I'm always trying to like think in my head, like, how do I not screw up saying this so it doesn't sound bad? But like, the best people, in my opinion, of every ethnic group, whether you're African, white, Asian, whatever, the best people just do great things. You know, you don't have to like be annoying. You could like your people. Like, I don't care. You know, certain people have connections to things. I don't knock anybody. I don't call anybody a racist or whatever. But like, if you're great at something, people will like you. If Muhammad Ali was just talking shit, nobody would have cared about what he said about race. But Muhammad Ali was a great boxer. So now people are listening to what he's saying. You know, he's great at something. So his opinion matters somewhat. Like the coolest white people, the coolest black people, the coolest Asians, they don't complain that much. You know, even I always bring up Freddie Mercury, but it's like the homosexuals. I'm trying to use the actual term. I'm not trying to be mean. Now the actual, I was going to say sodomite, homosexual, gay. I'm trying to like use dictionary definition, but whatever. You know, he didn't like, it didn't matter to that many people because he was so cool. I always use that example, but I think it's so true. Like, if he was just super gay and like super untalented and annoying, he's like, you're making fun of me. I am a proud gay and you're hurting my feelings. No one would have liked Freddie Mercury. You know, the greatest part about him was not his gay identity. The greatest part about him was the fact that he made We Will Rock You and Bohemian Rhapsody, and they're good songs that no straight person's ever made. So he gets the credit for it. Not because he's gay, because he's good. So the best people, they don't have to like play the victim all the time. It's like, just do something. Muhammad Ali, same thing. Like, yes, his social justice was huge, but also he was just an epic person. He was very unapologetic. I love Muhammad Ali. The worst people of every ethnic group are always playing the victim. Like, my favorite Jewish people, I like Adam Sandler, Shel Silverstein, Matisyahu. I mean, I like other Jewish people as well. Simone Gold, the doctor I believe she's Jewish. She's epic. Do you hear her complaining all the time? She doesn't complain because she's just awesome. She's just like, I'm a doctor. I love America. I love freedom. She doesn't have to sit and play victim all the time. She's getting victimized enough just for being a doctor who tells the truth. The most annoying people, like the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, they're constantly crying and playing the victim and blaming everybody. It's like a sign of just being awful. It's not because of your ethnicity. You're just terrible. And same with a lot of white people. I have to say this, like, both sides of the white thing annoy me, where like the white guilt, you know, like white people who are liberal, like, I feel so guilty. It's like, bro, your parents weren't slave masters. They worked at the factory down the street. Calm down. You know, you didn't sail over on the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria. Your parents escaped communism. It's not your fault. But in general, like, white guilt is really annoying. But also on the further right, I think people who are like super into the white thing, I don't care that you are, but sometimes they get super mad at me where it's like, you got an anonymous profile picture, you're talking about all this white stuff, and you're not even showing your face. At least get jacked. If you want to talk about white, just be a jacked white dude who's like, I'm the best. It's like, shit, I mean, whatever, you know, like, don't be hiding with the freaking frog picture talking all this shit to me all the time. It's like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? I respect people like Jaden McNeil and Nick Fuentes more because they show their face. You know, they show their face and they say what they say. And to me, that's more respectful than someone in the comment section. So it's like both sides of that are kind of annoying. We're like, you won't say this. I'm like, you won't even show your face. What, you want me to say it on a live stream and you won't even do it yourself. You make your own channel. I say what I want to say. But, you know, it seems to be like racially, people who push it the most are super annoying, where there's a way to talk about it. There's a way to love your heritage and your ethnicity. There's a way to be honest about what's going on in America and what the Democrats are doing in the media. But I just find that the people who complain the most tend to be just like annoying people. The best people and like the coolest people, they just do something cool and then they talk about their thing. And they're like, yeah, I feel this way about like I think that's what made Colin Kaepernick so lame. No disrespect, but like Colin Kaepernick was a starting quarterback, right? And then he wasn't a starting quarterback. If he was Tom Brady at the height of his career and just being like, I feel this way about black people, it's like, damn, that guy put a lot on the line. Muhammad Ali is a great example. I don't want to go to war. He suffered career-wise as the greatest boxer ever to do what he believed in. That's why I like Muhammad Ali. Colin Kaepernick, he waited until he was a bench player, and all of a sudden now he thinks he's Malcolm X. And his mother's, he's raised by white people. It's like, dude, get over yourself. Like in general, it's all good, but it's a lot cooler when you're really good at the sport and you're doing well than when you like fell off and now you're talking all this. Now, he's capitalized. For instance, like Muhammad Ali, he's making so much money from boxing. Tom Brady, he's making so much money for football. Colin Kaepernick was on the down. He's made more money from his activism and it got more famous from his activism than he did on the football field, which it's okay if you're good at what you're doing, but I don't know. I find that the best people are just like Freddie Mercury. How lame would it have been if he never made Bohemian Rhapsody and he was just like, man, people hate on me because I'm gay. It's like, bro, just go do something. If you Peter Thiel, I don't think he's crying that much. He's like a billionaire. Just go do something great. And then you could talk about what you're doing in the bedroom. Still, it's a little weird. It's like, you don't, unless you're doing like a porno podcast or something, like why you gotta put in people's face all the time? Like, I don't do that, but some people want to do that. If you're on Elton John, another example, he's super gay, but Rocket Man is awesome. So whatever, it's like, he doesn't just show up to the party looking like a leprechaun. He sung Tiny Dancer and we're like, okay, that sodomite's got some bars. No, I'm just kidding. But in general, it's like, I don't know. People respected him because of who he was and what he was able to create. It wasn't this whole like victim thing where he had to create like an anti-defamation league for gays. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like, have you ever made a song? Do you do anything? Do you work? Are you a construction worker? Are you a plumber? Like, do you do anything? Have you like helped anybody? You got like a soup kitchen? No, I just sit here and complain about being gay. It's like, well, yeah, that's no fun. And I'm not saying you have to be like a musician or an athlete, but I just find the most annoying people of every ethnicity, they always complain. It's like, maybe it's you. Because I've seen many, like Earth, Wind, and Fire. I was thinking about them because today, funny enough, if you say, remember the 21st night of September, is September 21st. Today's a good day to play that song because it's the day they talk about the song. But anyway, like Earth, Wind, and Fire, they're not out there complaining about shit. They're just bump, 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 bump. He's playing you ever seen the bassist for Earth, Wind, and Fire? He's just killing it. It's like everyone loves them. They're like, man, we love you. Black, white, Asian. You know what I'm saying? They made something great for the world and they perform it for all ethnic groups and nobody ever hates on them. So they're like, bah, bah, bah. Just stop. Then it's the guy who doesn't do shit, who's crying about everything all the time. It's like, do something and people will like it and appreciate you. The people who crush, they never complain. It's the worst people that hide behind their own ethnic group. They say, well, if you don't like me, you don't like everybody else. It's like, maybe there's people who are racist. I'll give that to you for sure. But like, maybe you just suck. And instead, like Sean King is a good example. The lightest skinned black person that I've seen in activism in a long time. But in general, it's like, he's always complaining and he's just like an awful person. It's like, bro, first of all, Sherman Williams shade like comparison, you're not the darkest person I've ever seen, but in general, whatever, you don't have to be, I guess, to be African, but it's like, I don't think the problem is everyone else. Like, I think you need to look in the mirror and be like, maybe if I wasn't such a horrible person, maybe I'd get treated better. But it's like, oh my God, people don't like me. Yeah, because you suck, And certain stereotypes in general, it's not nice to say everybody's doing something. Oh my God, everybody. No, that's not true. But there are certain things where patterns build in people's heads and then they think that way, where it's like, if you go, for example, outside of ethnicity, if you go down a street and you've gone 10 times and you've got robbed 2 times, you're going to be like, well, I got robbed on that street. And you're going to remember that. And you're going to blame that street. It doesn't make it right because there's probably great people who live on that street. But as a human, your job is not to like be like, well, I forgive. It's like, yeah, forgive them. But I got robbed 1/5 of the time I went on that street. You're not supposed to say, oh, well, every street's exactly the same on that one. If you've been to another street and you've never got robbed and you've been there 1,000 times, maybe that street's safer. So, I think with stereotypes, it's not nice to say but there's a reason certain things build with white people, Jewish, black, etc. It's not to say everyone's doing it all the time, but there are certain statistics that are happening where it's like people have not just invented this in their head. Sometimes they did, but a lot of times it's pattern recognition, where it's like, I don't know. It's not nice to blame somebody who's not doing anything, but there's certain patterns where it's like people are going to feel that way. Certain people are going to feel and say jokes and make statements. And I mean, as long as it's in good fun, I don't know. I like a good joke, but I guess I'm in the minority now, or people are pretending to not like jokes and stuff, but am I still alive? Yeah, I think so. All right, I'm going to read one more comment. We got to end on a good note. I should interview Rand Paul, maybe. Thermonomics said, my dad always told me to be respectful because whether you like it or not, you represent your group. I think that's great advice, to be respectful. But yeah, in general, like, you represent your country. I guess whatever people think, if you're Christian, your religion, if you're white or you're black, I mean, it's not your responsibility what everyone else does. But yeah, people, it is what people are going to think. So if you live in a Polish town and 90% of the people there are Polish and crime is rampant, it's not everyone else's job to be like, well, they're not doing it. It's like people are going to think certain things. You can't legislate people not thinking stuff. And that's what the media doesn't understand. If you want to solve racial unity, et cetera, you can't legislate. I mean, you could make fair and equal laws, et cetera, but at a certain point, you can't force people to get the product that they don't want to get. You have to show them and prove to them. So I feel like there's a lot of situations in the world where, in my opinion, like I said, the best people, when it comes to the best people of every group, they don't act that way. And there's so many organizations that want to stop people from saying stuff and believing stuff, but they don't want to follow through with the actions, where it's like, if it's this percentage doing this, if it's a small percentage doing a large percentage of this, whatever it is, it's not everyone's responsibility to not think it's not happening. It's partially that, but it's also partially everyone's responsibility to do something about it. So it's the same with America. If you want to take race out of it, if that's too difficult for people or too touchy, it's like in America, they can't mandate everything if everyone doesn't follow it. So if 90% of people follow it, it's not our job to tell people not to think that about us. It's our job to not do it. Once we don't do it, people won't think that way. You know what I'm saying? When I talk about Australia and stuff, I like people of Australia, but clearly they're under lockdown and enough people are not, peacefully resisting it. So they're stuck there. It's not my job to sugarcoat what's going on there. So that's what they want to do, I think, ethnically, is like some of the biggest victim cards and some of the biggest don't say that is not helping. It's only hurting it, but it's also kind of covering up why people feel that way. For instance, probably shouldn't end it this way, but whatever. When people talk about the Rothschilds or George Soros, they're not being anti-Semitic. I mean, maybe some people are, but for the most part, the Rothschild is one of the most successful banking families ever. Does that mean that they're doing everything all the time? Of course not. Does that mean they still have their wealth? Maybe not. Maybe they're still really rich. Maybe they lost it all. There's different conflicting reports, but like, it's not everyone else's job to sugarcoat it and act like there aren't powerful people of that ethnicity, because there are. And from Sheldon Adelson to George Soros, it's not like every Jewish person's doing it, but those are two very powerful people of a small demographic that are doing a large portion of funding political activity in this country and abroad. So maybe not everything, but if you call that anti-Semitic when you talk about it, like if you're Jewish and you talk about George Soros, they'll call you anti-Semitic. It doesn't make you an anti-Semite, and it doesn't make people not believe that it's happening. So this is like the strategy, whether it's Black, Jewish, other ethnic groups, whatever, border, Hispanic. They don't explain themselves. They don't say, well, there's a difference between an illegal immigrant and a legal immigrant. There are tens of millions of legal Hispanics. There's also illegals, and we need to differentiate what those mean, and then we could have a conversation. They just say everybody who talks about border security is racist. It doesn't even make sense. Most Hispanics, or at least a large portion, they are proud to be an American citizen, and they want other people to come in legally. This is not like 95% of Hispanics believe that. Probably, I don't know the actual demographics, but I would think 40 to 50% of Hispanics in America think that people should come in legally, but they don't have that conversation. You're a racist. You're an anti-Semite. You're a sexist. You hate black people. If you say that there's crime in this neighborhood, it's like there is crime in that neighborhood. Chicago's, the South Side is very dangerous, and it doesn't mean you're racist for noticing that. It's actually, in my opinion, the opposite. I don't believe young kids should have to grow up in a community where they're at that much risk in anywhere. So these are the games that they play to kind of cover up the issues that are going on, where I think in America and in every ethnic group, there's going to be things that are not ideal that either you work on and grow, all of us, or you cover up and say you can't talk about. And that's what they're doing, is they just say you can't talk about it. It's the perfect guise of never solving it. So for instance, in San Francisco and Los Angeles and Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., you could check the crime rates. I don't think they're going down, they're going up. And there's multiple reasons for that. There's, I think they took away people's jobs. That probably didn't help. The pandemic probably didn't help. People leaving the city didn't help. The fact that the politicians are not really enforcing policing that much didn't help. There's definitely certain demographic patterns that are blatantly obvious to a lot of people, but you're not allowed to talk about. So there's all these things that it's like, okay, if you really wanted to solve, why are these neighborhoods so dangerous? Why is crime going up? Why are Asian people getting beat up? You would have to take all parts of that puzzle, not just the race one, not just this one, not just political. You'd have to take it all and look at every side of the angle and say, well, this is happening. These are the stats, politically, ethnic, whatever, and put it all together and say, okay, we got to figure this out and then stop it. No one wants to do that. Nobody's trying to do that. You're racist. You're sexist. Oh, you're a right winger. You're a QAnon conspiracy theorist. These words mean nothing to me. That's why I only use them in jest. All of these words, if I finish my book, I know it's inspiring me to finish it now, but racist, sexist, xenophobic, anti-Semitic, conspiracy theorist, anti-vaxxer, these are words that are just like, get conversation over. It's over. Can we explain ourselves better? Because then if at the end of it, after a half hour, it's like, okay, that guy really hates that race. And it's like, some people are really hateful, but 9 times out of 10, it's just people don't want to have certain conversations. Like, doesn't make you far right to not want to live in a city where there's poop on the street. Like, seriously, that's how bad it's gotten. Oh, what do you watch, QAnon? Are you a QAnoner? It's like, I've lived in a city where there's poop on the street. Now I live in a city where there's not poop on the street. So I don't want to live there. It doesn't make me far right. It just means that's not a desirable place to live. And if there's high crime somewhere, it's also not a desirable place to live. Most people with the choice, would you rather your family grow up in a neighborhood where they could play on a playground, or would you rather your family to grow up on a neighborhood where the playgrounds are being taken over by homeless people and it's dangerous to walk down the street? Doesn't matter what ethnic group you are. Most people would choose the area that's cleaner and safer because that's just human nature. It's more desirable. It's disgusting to some of these parks in Los Angeles. They're unusable. They're disgusting. So, you can notice, well, politically, this neighborhood is allowing this. If you go to Los Angeles, there are activists who will not allow you to clean. They don't want you to clean up. It's psychotic. It's like if you had a house and you're like, hey, it's cleaning time, and they grab your arm when you're trying to broom it and say, don't clean it. I don't want it clean. We need this to be dirty. It's like, what the hell is wrong with these people? They want to live in filth and degeneracy. You go to Echo Park, a bunch of these hipsters, they love it. They want to live this way. It's disgusting. So I've identified that I don't want to live that way. But because of my views and my beliefs and to be honest, way more honest than they are, they probably would call me all of those names at once to try to justify why I didn't want to live with literal human shit outside my house. Like, that's how bad these people have gotten. So I don't really care what they say or how they, like, it doesn't bother me because I just laugh at how dumb they are. And it's just like someone said I'd hit them over the head with a broom. That's the type of mentality. If you move to a neighborhood that doesn't do that, it's so nice where everybody likes each other or at least like cares about their community. You can't even pay me to go back to Los Angeles now, but whatever. All right, read one more. Melbourne is turning into a war zone. I've seen some of the protests. It looks pretty ugly, to be honest. Someone said Oregon. Oregon's a beautiful state. It's just Portland. The leadership is piss poor, and most people, especially like criminals and stuff and people who do degenerate stuff, they just need to be told no. You know, it's like raising a kid, but it's like if you're allowed to do it, people will do it. I'm not saying to enforce like crazy laws, but like basic ones like don't steal. If you basically like justify it and pass laws to make it a easier, like people are going to do that. So I don't know what Portland's doing, but hopefully they get back on the right track. I'm sure they will. Kentucky's beautiful. Well, yeah, I mean, every state has beautiful areas. Every state has not beautiful areas. In a moral society, you would go to the beautiful areas and try to study why is it so beautiful? What makes it so great here? And then you can go to the areas that are run down and ask yourself, why is it run down here? You know, that's what we would do if people actually cared. Try to figure out what is the, common denominator in these two areas and figure out how to solve it and change it and figure out how to, make certain areas more prosperous. I think that would be ideal, but we'll see. I mean, I guess that's the world though. Not everything's not perfect. So you're going to have the yin and the yang, the good and the bad. But if I were in a position to do something, I would study it and try to be honest about it and then be like, listen, regardless of who you are or what you do, like this is how you get a society like this. And people have to act right. And if you don't act right, then, we're going to have to arrest you. And I know conservatives try to do that more. It's not a racial thing but it's like there is a certain way that you can't do certain things. If you want to live in a nice area, you can't have people treating everybody like shit. And if you want to be honest, I've been in neighborhoods in New York City, in Los Angeles, et cetera, but in some of the worst neighborhoods where crime is high, et cetera, people don't treat each other with respect. It's just true where you could say it's poverty, you could say it's this or whatever, but people treat the guy who serves the liquor like total shit. So it's like in order to get a good society, it's a combination of everyone who lives there. But if you don't even want to treat the guy with the corner store, with respect, you're not going to get respect. So there's obviously financial issues in these neighborhoods, but there's also like a lack of respect and appreciation for stuff. And no one's going to be able to change that. If most people in your community act like that, then it doesn't matter if you get $1 trillion. It starts from within. So vice versa in other neighborhoods where like I live in a neighborhood now where everybody's nice to each other for the most part. And if people treat people at stores like shit, they'll report it. So, I think there's many things going on, but a lot of it is like how you want to do it. And in LA, it's just nobody cares. Like, I don't know. It's like a thing where like nobody cares, like nobody talks about, and I'm just looking at it. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone and I'm like, why does nobody care about all this shit on the street? Like it's so easy to solve. It's just like minor enforcement, but they just act like they don't see it. I'm like, do they like it? Or are they depressed and they don't want to talk about it? So I've seen everything. And I notice that if a majority of people who live around you take care of it and it becomes taboo to do the right thing, then it will be. So I don't know. All right, one more, and then I got to go. Too long. Let's see. Why am I not? Oh, shoot. I almost put a filter on my face. Oh, shit. What did I hit? Some sort of button. Why am I not in a position? Because I wear hats like this. I got to fix it a little better. GodBlessHats.com here. You could pull it over your eyes. If you don't want to look at what's going on in the world, you just pull it over your eyes. You go to godblesshats.com. But you shouldn't drive like this. And to be honest, unless you're sitting down for 5 seconds, you should never do that. But godblesshats.com. If you buy 2 hats or a hat and a shirt or 2 shirts, whatever, you get a free sticker. But I am in a position, I'm just doing media stuff right now. So maybe one day when I'm older or something, but I don't like politics. I don't like the energy of it. And I'd rather have a different sort of impact. I'm working on it though. But like I said, with DeSantis or Trump or whatever, or Pelosi, if enough people get it, those people will have to act right. Pelosi is a total puppet. She was conservative 15 years ago. Now she's liberal. She'll go whichever way the wind blows. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to blow the wind back in the right direction. So hopefully it doesn't seem like I'm doing nothing. I'm sure I could do more, but politics is not the only way to have to change stuff. Someone said nice hat. Yeah, they're mine. And they're also, let me see if it's in here. Yeah, they're, see that, folks? Made in the U.S. too. Got a little U.S. sticker. Oh, you can't even see it. Whatever. Fail. All right. Appreciate you guys. t.me/dreamerchat. And I'm sending out an email blast tomorrow morning probably. So stayintouchwithme.com is my free email list. That's stayintouchwithme.com. If you haven't signed up and you sign up now, I will do an email blast tomorrow. I meant to say that at the beginning of my live stream, but I screwed up. I appreciate it. I'm like stuttering too long. I try to keep it under like an hour now, but I had a little more energy today because I took a nap earlier. So appreciate y'all. Have a good one. I'll be back. I'm a real quick. Hold on. Before I leave, I'm going to just say, someone said religion is a grifter's delight. I mean, obviously there's a lot of religious people in the world, but I don't have to answer this, but I just want to. When I was making merch, I was thinking of things, Dream Rare, Anomaly. I could have put my own name on everything, right? Some people would have bought it, Anomaly. I just like God Bless Better because I thought it was bigger than me. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to grift off religion. I could have grifted off of my own name. I could have grifted off other stuff, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to use religion in my advantage. I just thought it was like a more humble sort of thing where it's like, I could put my name on stuff and, at a certain point I will, but I thought it was a bigger message to put God on stuff. And also when you walk around with Anomaly, it's whatever. If you walk around with Epic or Rare, it's kind of like self-serving, right? Oh, I'm so rare. It's nothing wrong. I have shirts like that, but in general, I like God Bless because it was a bigger message to me. And also when I wear it, anything with God on it, people will talk to me. They're like, oh man, I love your hat. I've met so many cool Christians and so many cool people through wearing merchandise with God on it. So that's why I did it. It wasn't like I'm going to capitalize on Christians or Muslims or whatever. It's like, no, I want something that's bigger than me. And it hit and I was happy with it. And I feel like the brand's even bigger because it's not just like, oh, I'm so great, I'm so cool. It's like, no, it's God bless. And it's a message that isn't toxic or negative. It's not one of these shirts like I'm not getting the jab or screw Fauci. There's nothing wrong with those shirts. I find them funny. Anytime I see somebody who wears one, I compliment them. That's a way to get attention too. I saw someone recently with like an InfoWars shirt that said Trader Joe, but like Trader. I said, hey man, I like your shirt because I thought it was funny. But this is the type that doesn't make anybody, it's not like either love it or hate it. Most people don't get mad by it. So I'm a chill guy, and I felt like it was a chill message where you could walk around and not feel like someone's going to be angry at you. So that was my thought process when I made it. You could call it a grift or whatever, but I could have done a bunch of things, but I'm super pumped with my decision. So that's why I did it. God bless you guys. Have a good one.